What's up, folks? Was the Biden administration telling Facebook to censor jokes during COVID and other stuff? I got the report, and we're going to talk about it. As somebody who had a satire comedy video deleted by Facebook, it's an interesting story to me because I'm wondering if that was Facebook's decision or the government's decision. Second thing I want to talk about is this January 6th stuff. Mike Pence is coming out saying Trump tried to get him to turn against the Constitution. Opportunists, politicians like Vivek Ramaswamy are popping up on camera talking all this big talk about January 6th and defending Donald Trump. But I have an excerpt from his book, which was written after January 6th, about how he really feels about January 6th. And I wish he would say it. I wish he would stand by his actual beliefs, but of course he won't, because telling the truth in MAGA Trump world will lose him a spot at the table and his political career would crumble for saying what he actually believes, which means he's just as fake as everyone else, and we'll talk about it. Former porn star Mia Khalifa has a message for married women. It's pretty awful. We're gonna watch it and review. And then Trump Truth Socialed, I need one more indictment to ensure my election, in all caps, bragging that he knows that every indictment he gets seals him the deal for the Republican primary. He doesn't even want to debate anymore because he doesn't have to, because thanks to the Democrats' actions, they all but guaranteed him a victory over the competition. I brought on Bobby Sauce today as a special guest. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. God bless you. Show starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. I have Bobby Sauce on. What's up, Bobby?
What's good?
Before we get to the main story, this broke 5 minutes before I went live. Apparently, and I saw it for myself, so I know it's true. Jamie Foxx on his official Instagram, he posted in all caps, it says, "They killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Hashtag fake friends, hashtag fake love." So everybody's been wondering what's going on with Jamie Foxx. He looks hurt. Is he sick? Is he injured from the medical product that must not be named? And he's out here saying they killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? What do you think?
I think it sounds like some Harley Pasternak PTSD from the Ye situation type scenario, but I don't know.
I don't know what to think. We got to get Tim Pool in here to tell us what to think. So,
yeah.
I don't want to make any statements just yet, but
yeah.
Let's get into the official first story of the day. It is Facebook files show that Biden's administration even targeted jokes for censorship. So the first line of this article, written by Jonathan Turley, he seems like a pretty solid guy. He said, COVID-19, the flu, and the common cold all walked into a bar. The bartender asked, "What's this? Some kind of sick joke?" But indeed, this is one of the many COVID-19 jokes that raged on the internet during the pandemic. What citizens did not know is the Biden administration was tracking these laugh lines for censorship. What do you think?
I think what's crazy is that it's still going on today. I actually had a video removed from TikTok, and people that know my content know that I use a lot of euphemisms. I'll say things like the juice, the mysterious potion, but I specifically referenced the flu and the CDC numbers about how the flu was calculated in 2020. And if you actually go to cdc.gov and you look at the flu numbers for 2020, in 2019, they estimated that there were 30 million cases of the flu around the world. And in 2020, it literally says the number was so low that they didn't even estimate how many cases there were, which is uncommon in all of recorded history. Right. But they're still censoring this to this day. And that's just
And they're still, because Jim said it on my show, and I thought about how much they censored, and I went and looked, and there's still a New York Times article about it. There's still a Scientific American. And I just want to say, you said juice, right? Like orange juice.
Yeah.
I use euphemism. Okay. I have flashbacks to one time I said that, and someone was like, "You said that, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, I was just making sure."
Yeah.
But yeah, I know people call the vaccine the juice. I just say vaccine sometimes. I know people were saying Maxine for a while, just putting an M. Well, because it's algorithmic. Like on Instagram, if you put vaccine, then it puts a warning. Kelly Slater on his story one time, he posted the word vaccine and it had a warning, and then he screenshotted it with the warning, and it did another warning, and then he screenshotted that, and it was like a house of mirrors where he did it 20 times just to see if they kept doing it.
Yeah,
and they did. one of the videos that I had censored is probably one of the funnier videos I made during the pandemic, because I thought to myself, they're censoring everything and they're driving me insane. So let me just make a joke so I don't like poop my pants or whatever you do when you're locked in your house for 4 months. I always, sorry, don't mean to get cruel there, but I always use the restroom to my loyal followers. But anyway, I made a joke that I said I was the #1 mask fan in the world. And I said, hey, y'all, my name's like, Jerry Johnstone, or I made some stupid name. And I was just like, I love masks. I love it. I love when it gets damp in my face. I love it. And like, I just made a whole thing about that. I was like, I love getting on an airplane without it and putting it on to eat. I love and I showed a video of Fauci flip-flopping and I was like, what the hell? I don't know which one to believe. Like, and it was funny and they deleted that. So with this article, before I read on, I'm wondering, did Facebook delete it because Facebook deleted it, or was this a government request?
Yeah, well, there's that case where the guy made a meme about like texting in your vote or whatever, and the guy's going to get prosecuted and is probably going to do jail time for it. And that's going on right now. I'm pretty sure the sentencing is like in the next a month or so. And that's because it was a conservative or at the very least, you could say like a right-wing person, and people on the left did the exact same thing and were never prosecuted for it. So there's just all this evidence of political persecution, but our supposed leaders are worrying about doing things that don't matter and like squealing about the dumbest things imaginable while people are getting arrested for free speech, especially for jokes.
And yeah, before I read on, I want to say too, because this is one thing that really bothers me. People will be like, I don't, because Trump doesn't talk about COVID anymore because it doesn't benefit him. Biden doesn't talk about it because it doesn't benefit him. And they're leading both parties. The two candidates that are really leading on we need retribution or we need justice for what happened in 2020 to 2022. This is DeSantis and RFK. They're the candidates who are campaigning on that. And apparently voters don't care. But what weirds me out is like, it's not even just a selfish or a personal thing. Cause sometimes people are like, is that all you're ever going to do? Like, I can't do anything else. Like I didn't have a job before COVID or anything, or after, talking about other stuff. But it's like, no, that was the craziest thing that ever happened. They destroyed the economy. They took my speech. They used it as a to make the world Orwellian. They censored jokes, like everything crazy that's against the Constitution and against American values. They did that under that guise. And we're just going to sit and be like, well, that's fine. And everything they said about the pharma potion, like as far as the efficacy, et cetera, like it all turned out to not be true from what they originally said, like the Rochelle Walensky's of the world. And just because Donald Trump would rather talk about himself and because Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about it, and those are the two characters, we're going with the 80-year-old vaccine salesman. Now all of a sudden the right's been psyoped and be like, I don't care about any of that stuff. That's old news. It's like, well, then I guess you don't care about any topic ever, because that's the thing that they did to us. And if we set the precedent that nothing happens and we're just going to move on as if nothing happens, why wouldn't they scam us again? Like, I think we deserve to get scammed. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I lose a game and I don't play good, I deserve to lose. We deserve to get, Republicans deserve to get stomped all over like the doormats they act like. If their thought process is like, let's just move on from all of that and think nothing of it. It's like, it's a green light bat signal to the elites to be like, let's do something like that again, because these people don't even care.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's kind of like how, pertinent details disappear over time, but you never forget, how a person made you feel. People always say that it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it and so forth. It's like the more that we let distance get between when all this stuff happened and now and forget about it, the more likely that it will happen again. So the fact that this is somehow not important when you had them blaming people that weren't doing it, lying about it, and it's still affecting people's health and will for the foreseeable future, and all of the jobs and all of the things that were lost. It's like, it's in a lot of ways almost like the only thing, because it's like, if you don't prepare for that type of situation to happen again, which it obviously will, and they're obviously objectively preparing for it, then you deserve for it to happen again.
They were talking about, I did a whole episode on this. It's not official. It's not real. They're going to fact check it 10,000 times, but they're trying to work in a lab on edible plant vaccines. How does that work? I have no idea. But Thomas Massie got out of it, and he said, he got out ahead of it and said, I'm trying to pass legislation that says U.S. taxpayer dollars will never fund that. Like whatever that is, if it ever becomes a thing, let's never fund that. And he's somebody who gets out ahead of stuff. And DC Drano and Trump tried to kick him out of the Republican Party. It's like, we have one guy that's playing chess, like trying to get 5 years ahead of the Democrats. And it's like, let's throw him out of the way and put Mike Lindell and Kerry Lake there. And like people in the comments, get effed. It's like, dude, they just scammed us in the craziest, most insane way. and nobody wants to talk about it because it's not convenient to the candidate who they're choosing. Like, if it doesn't happen this election and people don't care about it in this election cycle, like you said, the more years go by, of course there's never going to be any justice. I mean, there's probably never going to be, even if we cared about it today. But I'm just blown away that so many people have been psyoped into thinking like, nah, I don't want justice for that. Like, let's just move on. It's like the elites are probably watching this like, oh, it's this easy to step all over people's throats. You just give them two characters, a red and a hat and a blue hat, and these people will literally move on. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the thing that it's crazy because it's like the more that you pay attention to this stuff, you start to see how certain moves are made over time. And at the beginning, you give somebody the benefit of doubt. They're like, I'm 100% sure this is going to happen. And then when you see them repeat that line or repeat those same mistakes, you can almost predict what they're going to do ahead of time. And you're like, nope, I'm not falling for this again. It's like
Right.
all of this stuff that they said in 2020. It's like, I can foresee how they're going to do that again the next go around. And it's like, let's just project out for a second and say that, let's say Trump lost the primary. It's like Mike Lindell would do a 47-hour marathon symposium on some obscure platform, and he would be like, he's like, they cheated and DeSantis did it or something. Like DeSantis lost and Trump won every single state. It's like if they can lie to you about one thing, they can lie to you about anything. How you do anything is how you do everything. And it's like, if we're going to let them get away with these things and sweep it under the rug, it's like, how could you expect them to not lie going forward? And the thing that really bothers me is like specifically Trump, and I don't even mean to go against Trump. It's just something I'm seeing when he's like, on day one, I'm going to release the JFK files and I'm going to uncover the Malcolm X truth and I'm going to uncover all this truth. It's like, then why didn't you do that the first time, bro? It's like, and what will happen is in the event that he did get in, it won't happen. Oh, you know, that's not important anymore. They said lock her up for Hillary the whole 4 years. As soon as he gets in, he's like, nah, we don't care about that anymore. Literally says that. It's like, if you let this guy lie to you or any politician lie to you, and then he breaks that promise, how could you trust anything he says going forward?
On the second to last day of office, he gave awards and presidential commendations to Fauci, Kushner, Mark Milley. Like, it's so obvious that he's not who people think he is, but it's like the more he slaps them in the face, the more they like it. It's kind of like BDSM, you know, like they like, it's like a abuse fetish. But I want to say this real quick too, with the, like how they're going to sneak it in again. With the COVID stuff, I mean, a lot of the similarities of how they're going to flex their power and say that you can't disagree, I think they're going to do it with the climate change stuff. And how will they do it? It's going to be easy because they just got to sneak it into an omnibus bill, and any of these Republican losers will sign it. You know, Ted Cruz, to his credit, he went over the one omnibus bill that Trump signs, and he explained all the liberal stuff in it. And Ted Cruz was like, I'm not, and I don't even like Ted Cruz, but to his credit, he said, I'm not signing this. He's like, this has left-wing this in there. This has gun control. It gives the CDC the right to study how to take your Second Amendment. And Trump signed it, and he bragged about it and said it lowered the smoking age and like stupid stuff. But people don't even pay attention. So I think, they don't even need a pandemic to do left-wing climate change funding. They just need to throw it in an omnibus bill, give people a character like Trump, and they'll play a little Nancy Drew game or something, being like, do you think maybe when he signed the bill that the pedophiles in Japan got arrested on the ship last September? And it's like, yeah, Patriot. I don't know.
Wasn't it Thomas Massey? I can't remember who said it the other day, but they were like, there was not a single budget increase bill that did not get signed by President Trump.
And Massey even said, he said, he said, I had two people that I asked him to pardon. He said, Snowden and Assange, that he's like, that was my pardon list. And I asked for a commutation or something for Ross Albright. I want to read real quick because I hope you guys stay tuned, because I have, like, with the whole Vivek thing going on, he doesn't believe anything he's saying right now, or at least he's not saying what he really believes. There's a whole book of him complimenting Mike Pence, calling Donald Trump a sore loser, and Stacey Abrams. Like, you guys think I'm just being hateful or something. I'm really not. It's just these people are not who they say they are, and it's okay. But anyway, from this article, the Hill article, on the note of Biden administration strong-arming or trying to strong-arm Facebook, it says one email from August 2022 sent long lists of newspaper, tweets, or even YouTube videos deeming to be anti-Ukraine narratives. Even satirical and comedy sites were reportedly designated for government removal. Now we know that Facebook executives were facing the same insatiable government desire for censorship. In an April 2021 email, Nick Clegg, Facebook's president for global affairs, wrote to colleagues that Andy Slavitt, a senior advisor to Biden who was steering COVID-19 policy, was outraged, not too strong a word to describe his reaction, that Facebook did not remove this post. So, before we move on, what do you think about that?
I think that the likelihood, like if Mark Zuckerberg was willing to say on Joe Rogan that they sent him like this warning or whatever, and that he acted in accordance with it, which he kind of, I hate to say it, but like in a lot of ways has to, I would wager that it probably goes certainly a lot deeper. And none of this surprises me. And I think that all of us that kind of live and breathe on these platforms saw this happen in real time.
I'm going to read which the post it is, because they said remove this post. What post were they talking about? According to The Hill, the post they were talking about was actually a humorous meme shared by a user named Timothy McComas. It featured actor Leonardo DiCaprio's character in the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, pointing at a TV with a beer and a cigarette in his hand. The caption read, 10 years from now, you will be watching TV and hear, did you or a loved one take the COVID vaccine? You may be entitled, ... Slavitt was not amused. More importantly, he was irate that others were amused, hundreds of thousands of others. He explained that McComas had to be censored because such humor demonstrably inhibits confidence in COVID-19 vaccines among those that the Biden administration is trying to reach. So just making a joke that there could possibly be side effects in 10 years from the COVID vaccine, which there absolutely could, like he's saying, with everything I see articles like that all the time. They used to think asbestos was good and they'd put it in houses. And I bet the scientists at the time would call it anti-science to say it wasn't good for you. And now that's every other commercial. Did he take asbestos? Did he take asbestos? So, or was he around asbestos? Did he work at this facility? Yeah, crazy that they got this to the public. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to keep saying it, but it's like it is the slippery slope. If you can, and you're absolutely right, because it's what's important about paying attention to this is not just that was censored and saying, look at this, but realizing how this is only going to increase in efficacy, only going to increase in frequency over time, and how they're going to say things like, if you drive your car, you're polluting the earth. You can only drive this amount of miles. You can only eat this much meat. You can only fly this amount of times per year. You can only travel so many miles from your pod. This is just them dipping their toe in the water and saying, and that meme, that they didn't even say anything. It's like making a joke about a hypothetical situation. Even if they didn't believe it was true, the purpose of the comedy being censored is like, then they could censor anything. What limit is there if that, and the other day, like I said, when I made that video, I said the juice, the mysterious potion, and then I referenced literally a screenshot of the CDC, and that got removed for misinformation. I'm like, what was the misinformation? I said juice. So they're now censoring the implied euphemism about like,
if you
not
say
even
like
the word
Maxine or like secret potion or like pharmashotties, you just make up nicknames and they'll start deleting them. Well, before I read more of this article, I want to say the reason I kind of talk about Republicans a lot, I'm not infighting. I'm not a hater. Like if someone does something good, I love to promote it. It's just one of those things that when I watch what happened during COVID, I don't see it the way these other people see it, where it's like, oh, Democrats did all this to us and like Republicans tried really hard. Not really. They signed every spending bill. They gave them the test. They gave them the mask. I remember the day Trump wore a mask and I was like, we're screwed now, because he wouldn't wear one for months. And I was like, if the president doesn't wear one, we're good, because he's the leader of the country. And then he caved, and it's like he caved on 15 different things. Ted Cruz caved. They all caved. They all did all this stuff, and nobody was really talking about that. We had an election to win. Yeah, they knew censorship was happening, but they're 20 steps behind. So that's what I'm trying to say is like anytime someone like a Thomas Massey gets out ahead of it and says, hey, this is what they're going to do in 4 years, or this is what they're doing now, people are like, shut up, shut up. DC Drano didn't tell me that. Shut up, shut up. Trump didn't say that. I just want phrases. I want, pull string doll. I'm in the way because they're coming for you, or MAGA. Like people want this like simplistic, just like babble, like war chants where it's like, God forbid anyone's like, hey, the Democrats are playing chess. We should probably play chess too, or else they're going to do this to us again. Like, shut up. Carrie Lake's on TV. She's going to say what I know. And they're like, I guess that's what the movement is now. It's like a controlled opposition movement where people just want to follow the Pied Piper off a cliff. And then when they follow him off a cliff, there's some Republican influencer to catch them and be like, it was the left, now buy my merch, you know? And it's like, okay, that's like our whole party is a setup at this point. Cause yes, this is so frustrating that the Biden administration did this, but the censorship started in 2020 when Republicans were in office, and they didn't care until it started happening to them. So we're just too late on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too, I think that's a big, that's kind of like a big tell of the characteristics of all of us is like, okay, let's just call it the political right or the Republicans, just for the sake of the discussion. It's like the most important and crucial time for us is right now. We had 4 years of L's. Whether we want to say it was stolen or not, we've been taking L's. We've been taking it on the chin since November 6th of 2020 or whatever it was, 2021, whatever, before the election. And ever since then, we've been taking L after L after L. Now we have this 7-month or 6-month window of opportunity where we have to determine who's the person that could actually turn this around, at the very least, leading the charge against it. Now, here's the time where Republicans can debate and focus on each other to try to figure out what the solution is. It's like if you had a good friend that didn't tell you you were morbidly obese, how good of a friend are they? They need to tell you the hard things. In this time frame, when we're trying to figure out who our leader should be, everybody is resorting to the most juvenile attacks on each other and yelling things like, and yelling things like MAGA this and MAGA that without actually paying attention.
We got kicked off. I don't know what happened exactly, but hopefully Bobby comes back. Give me a thumbs up if you see it. Bob, I don't know. Your camera's not working, but you're here. Hold on. Sorry about that, folks. Give me like 10 seconds. Bobby, if you can see this, just leave and come back because it kicked you off for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to just read the story and hope that he comes back in, and I'm going to send him another link. So the rest of that, I guess we were on. I'm going to blame, I don't know. There you go. You're back in.
Right.
I don't know exactly what happened. It like refreshed the page and just kicked us out. I'm going to read this paragraph and then you could keep going. I just want to get through this article. It says, at the same time, the White House was targeting those with well-founded questions over the efficacy of masks, the relative protection of natural immunities, and the harm posed to children in the pandemic measures. Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg wrote, we are facing continued pressure from external stakeholders, including the Biden White House, to remove posts criticizing the COVID vaccines. I mean, I knew this. I think it's a terrible thing to have the government step in and censor, but to me, they were censoring all of 2020, even when we were in office. So, I don't know how much that even mattered, although it is a terrible precedent to have the White House, asking them to censor.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that it's intertwined in speech and you can break all of these constitutional rules without any recourse or repercussion from our supposed leaders that are standing on stage and shouting freedom, America, America first, USA, and all that stuff's allowed to happen. It's like, what are you guys doing in there? I don't understand what, if anything, they're fighting for. And it's like, look, I'm keen on the aliens. That's great. But it's like, is that really what we're going to do, guys? We're going to talk about aliens when all these things are actually occurring and people are really suffering. It's sad. I think we've all kind of like lost the plot, and I like trust nobody anymore.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get around to what you were saying before we were mysteriously kicked off by aliens, I believe. I'm not trying to put a new theory out there, but I do believe that aliens, what do they call it? They're like non-biologic UFOs. It's like that could non-human biology or something. It's like, dude, that
biologics,
that could be an animal. A bird could be a non-human biologic. Like see, it's like if you have, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world, but I think my IQ and my non-fluoridated Floridian brain exceeds the limit of like where they can control me. To the sense of like, everyone's like, well, come on. I mean, that's pretty deep there, like the non-human biology. It's like, dude, a bird is a non-human biology. A tree, a flying, anything that they're not familiar with. A fly could technically be, or
yeah,
it's ridiculous. But I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe we're being taken over by aliens. This next story I want to read, it shows like a portal of what me and Bobby are trying to explain, because I know some people don't get it. They never will agree to disagree. But this is what I'm saying when it comes to Vivek. I call him a few things, and God bless the guy. He's a good worker. I think he'll be a good politician one day. He was a great pharma CEO. Now all of a sudden he's like the right wing Ronald Reagan or something. But I call him right wing Barack Obama. Barack Obama, Vivek. I used to sell vaccines. Now I sell MAGA merch or whatever. But I don't know if he sells MAGA merch. But and then I call him Chat GPT because it's like he always says exactly what people want to believe. So he's been out there, and I have his book. He's been out there saying, Trump's innocent. Like, I'll do this. I'm asking for FOIA requests. I mean, he's crushing it politically, but they're asking him, like, does he agree with Mike Pence that he should or shouldn't have certified it? And he said, this isn't political recently. He said, I would have never let it get to that point. I would have never put myself or my administration if I was in a serious position of leadership to ever have been allowed on that doorstep. So he's not answering the question because they're asking, do you think Mike Pence was right to not decertify the election or whatever MAGA thinks he could have done or would have done? And Vivek won't answer it. And I know why. I don't know if people know this, but you're about to find out. I know why Vivek won't answer, because he actually doesn't agree with MAGA. And if he tells you this, he's going to lose his career. I believe not everything he says here, but I'll tell you what I believe after. Here's from Vivek's book, which he wrote after January 6th. This is what he really believes. He just can't tell you. He has to act like Carrie Lake, or he knows he'll be cut off from the Republican Party. So I'm going to read it. It says, this is from Vivek's book, when my candidate lost the election, I was dissatisfied, but I also felt a sense of peace. The election was done, and it was time to move on. No one likes a sore loser. That's one of the worst victimhood complexes of all. Accepting the outcomes of elections and having a peaceful transition of power is part of what it means to be in a constitutional republic. Sometimes your team loses, but if you accept the result and prepare for the next election, eventually the scales will tip your way again. We fought, we lost, and I accepted the result. So I was especially disappointed when I saw President Trump take a page from Stacey Abrams' playbook. His claims were just as weak as Abrams. She claimed voter suppression. He claimed voter fraud. He filed scores of lawsuits over various claims of fraud and as on the right, but they came nowhere close to changing the outcome in a single state, let alone the swing states who he needed to overturn, or whose results he needed to overturn. In many cases, judges the president himself had nominated rules against him, a sign of health in our nation's institutions. All right, I'm going to read one more real quick. Another excerpt from Vivek's book. He said, Mike Pence, a man I have great respect for, decided it was his constitutional duty to resist the president's attempt to get him to unilaterally overturn the results of the election, even in the face of the January 6th Capitol riot. Our institutions did hold in the end, but they should have never been tested. So this is what I'm trying to explain to people about Chat GPT, conservative Vivek Rama Obama Swami. He's saying exactly what you want to hear, which is a very, like, he's like a Cutco, pyramid scheme, like a salesman, Jehovah's Witness, knocking on the door. He'll tell you everything you want to hear so you like him. And I think it's smart in politics, but the thing is, he doesn't even believe a lot of this stuff. So it's like, if you believe that Mike Pence shouldn't have overturned the election, I can respect that. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. If you believe that Trump is a bad leader and he's kind of misleading his people and going too far, I can respect that. And if you think the other way and you can make sense of it, I can respect that too. What I don't respect and what I don't trust is a man who will sit up there acting like Mike Lindell and Carrie Lake because he knows that's what you want to hear, but he really feels like I feel, and he even feels more strongly than I feel about it, and says that Trump is wrong about that topic. Why won't he stand on stage at Turning Point or somewhere else and say, I think Trump is wrong about January 6th. I think Mike Pence was right to do it. I'm glad it happened. I think Donald Trump's a sore loser, and I think he's taking a page from Stacey Abrams' playbook. How come he didn't read that? How come he doesn't say that? That's what he thinks. He wrote it in a book after January 6th. Do people understand what I'm talking about now? Let me know what you say. Sorry, I was in the zone there.
No, it's all good. No, I mean, it's because people will like dismiss these things and be like, that's politics. Well, what politics is, and what he's making very clear, is that he is smart. These people are very smart, and they're anticipating you being stupid. And they're playing that role where it's like, it's written in the book. It's like the only other thing that it could be would be a video of him saying it. But people are so brainwashed now by whatever they want to think that it could be written in plain English and they won't hold him to account on it. And it's like, these are the types of things that your modern politician, Trump included, knows that you're not going to do anything about it. There could be a video of me saying, I'm 100% sure that this is going to happen, and then it not happening. And then when it comes to you getting on a stage, people are like, yeah, get him this time. They could say a lie straight to your face and never hold them account and never be held account to it. And it's like, it's not even their fault at this point. It's like, if I lie to you 100 times and you keep coming back for more, it's your fault now.
Right.
It's not my fault for lying. It's
Right.
your fault for permitting it, which is why it's so insane and sad that people that the Republican base or whatever, we're like, hey, you're morbidly obese, you need to stop eating McDonald's. And they're like, shut up. What are you, a rhino now? You're going to say that? It's like, I'm trying to tell you the truth because I care about you. But if you guys are just going to keep going and like throating Big Macs, double Big Macs, then it's like, there's nothing, I can't help you. And here it is, all these people that we agree with, love, and care for that have been right and right about so many things, but they don't want to accept the truth. And it's like, they'll even read that thing about Vivek and they'll come up, they'll do gymnastics, they'll do Twister to try to find a justification for it, to the point where they'll even answer on Vivek's behalf to cover for him. Oh, that was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Just like they do with Trump.
They're
like, he made a mistake. Bill Barr like tricked him.
No.
It's like,
no, and I'm sure Vivek still believes that, but I think you nailed it, where I think it's very smart people who thinks that the base is stupid, and they've understand, like you said, in the consumer era of what do you want. We run a website now together called streamrare.com. Sometimes our biggest articles are the cheapest things we do. And I'm not saying cheap, but quick, not that important. And then the really important stuff that we're like very passionate about, takes us hours to do, doesn't get that many clicks. We'll still do what we believe, but from a business perspective, it actually doesn't make sense. It makes sense to feed people like cattle feed. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but like, lower tier stuff that's just click worthy, which it's part of the game, I understand. But with this sort of stuff, like if you want lies, or you want someone to lie to your face and that's what you want, and when someone tells you the truth, it bothers you, then people are inspired to lie. Like Vivek is probably a very high IQ person. He's a very good businessman. He worked with Big Pharma. He did that thing. He tweeted Soros op-eds. Like he's a professional chameleon. He's a smart guy. And now that he's in conservative politics, he's smarter than all these other idiots. Like Vivek, his IQ is probably like 2 times like Ted Cruz's. So it's 100%. One of these things where it's like he can study. It's not like I could study what the left wants and pretend to be a leftist. Very good. I'm a smart guy, but I just don't feel like doing that. I'm not a fake. But he that's the point that bothers me with him, is like, I would vote for Vivek over Trump at this point if I had to choose between the two in like an election. They're both not my top candidates, but I'm just saying, even though he's saying the right things and I don't believe he means them, at least he's saying them, and that is a step in the right direction. But when he writes a book and he says, Vivek respects Mike Pence more than I do, yet he's up here acting like he's Trump's biggest bootlicker. And it's like, bro, read your book. I dare you to go to the Capitol and read your book that you wrote within the last 2 years. Read your book, bro. You don't know. You just want to give one. He's a politician. He doesn't believe it, but he's saying what he knows he needs to say, and he won't say the full truth because he knows the full truth will bother MAGA. And
what the hell?
Sorry, Bobby, you're going to have to come back in. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'll figure it out after this. I apologize. It just keeps refreshing on us some reason. But yeah, when it comes to Vivek, what he wrote in his book, what he believes about Pence, etc., he doesn't want to tell people that because he knows that's the end of his political career. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what the hell's going on with my browser this time. It's very bizarre. Or it just keeps flashing and like kicking people out. Hopefully Bobby can get back in. If not, I'm going to send him another link. What I was going to say too, before we move on to the next story, hopefully he gets back, is when it comes to here, I'm going to try to send him a link real quick. Sorry about that. Let me see. Copy link. I think it's on my side, not Bobby's side. So let me see. Bobby, if you're listening, I'm going to send you a new link. It should be the same, but not sure exactly what's going on. All right. While we're waiting for him to get back, when it comes to January 6th and what they wanted Mike Pence to do, this is my least popular opinion. And I've always felt this way, but I've said it before, but it's one of those things, if you say it, people are going to get the wrong idea of you. So I'm going to preface it on this because I got to like softball it in or people will get mad. I don't like Mike Pence or trust Mike Pence. I think he's an establishment politician. I think what he did with the COVID task force is a disgrace. All right, here's Bobby. All right, you're back. I'm gonna just go on this. I have no idea what's happening. My browser keeps flashing and kicking us off like for a split second. It's very weird.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I do think that Mike Pence is closer to a Mitt Romney than he is like a Thomas Massey. Like I don't trust the guy at all, and I think that he was a snake. Honestly, you'd have an easier time finding not snakes in Trump administration because as much as people like to say Trump's a victim, Trump likes snakes. Like he likes snakes. He likes people who lie to him. He doesn't like people that have ethics and will stand up to something he does when it's not right. So there's a reason that Trump surrounds himself by all snakes is because that's what he likes. But anyway, I don't actually think Mike Pence was wrong on January 6th. I don't think that the vice president should be able to decertify the votes. If that's the case, Kamala Harris can say that Russia hacked the election if Trump or DeSantis won, and then they could decertify the election. If you can find real 100% proof and you can do all the stuff and do all the court cases, I was on Trump's side on December. I wanted him to win. I thought that there was fraud. I thought that they would have a better court case. I thought Sidney Powell would have more. I thought Lynn Wood might have something. And I feel like what I wanted to happen and what happened were two different things. And by the time it hit January, I'm like, yeah, the solution is not to throw a Hail Mary pass. That's what you do in football. I call the Mike Pence thing the Hail Mary because it's like we're out, we're losing, we're down 14. There's 15 seconds left. Just go down the field, throw it as far as you can, and it's a low percentage chance because it's just what you have to do because there's nothing else to do. That's what the Mike Pence thing was to me. So I actually think Mike Pence, as much as I don't like him or trust him, I agree with what Vivek wrote in his book, but the difference is I'm not a politician. I'm not a fake. I'm not a vaccine salesman or a car salesman. I'll tell you what I really believe. I don't care how popular it is because it's the truth. Vivek knows what I just said is true. He knows it. He believes it. He wrote it in a book and he called Trump a sore loser like Stacey Abrams. Vivek did. But he'll never say what he believes. And a lot of people believe that. There's court cases coming out. I'm going to throw it to you in a second, Bobby. I'm sorry to ramble, but there's court cases coming out. People around Trump don't even believe it. They've said in court when they got like, I don't actually believe that stuff. No, I think it wasn't what we said it was. That wasn't true. That's why they're losing a lot of these cases. It's not just because the courts are corrupt. It's because these people are telling you what you want to hear. Like Vivek, he wrote in his book that he thinks Trump's a sore loser. He's like Stacey Abrams. He has just as little proof as her. And that Mike Pence is an honorable guy. And now he's on the front steps of the Capitol speaking about how dude, it's so obvious.
Yeah, well, it also, and like, I hate, like, people always say that by criticizing Trump, it's like, why are you hating on Trump? It's like, I'm just saying the true things. People just get emotional about it. It's what it did is it follows a pattern that he employs, which is it's everybody's fault but me. He's like, well, Mike Pence is a coward, and that's why we lost. And it's just like, okay, so then we're going to just blame it all on Mike Pence now, and people will yell things at Mike Pence as if it was his decision to make. But then it also allows everybody to completely forget the 60-plus court cases that they lost and all of the other things that happened beforehand that he did nothing about. He didn't do anything about Section 230 and the ability for us to talk about it in the 4 years that he was in there, knowing how important social media is. This guy understood social media probably more than any president ever and didn't do anything about it while we had the chance. So it just goes to show that's like he will blame anybody and everybody else for things that he does himself. And there's another thing that's a really important attribute of leadership. There's this guy named Jocko Willink, and he has a book called Extreme Ownership. And he talked about when he was in the military that if somebody in his platoon or in his faction, even if it was 10 steps down from him, made a mistake, he would come out in front of the whole team and he would own the mistake. Even though it wasn't his fault and he had nothing to do with it, he's the leader. It's his mistake. And he said that the respect that he would get from the remainder of the team members, knowing that he had nothing to do with it, but he's the leader and he takes the ownership, gave them so much more respect from going forward. If Trump just came out and did that, among many other things, and said, look, I screwed it up. I should have done these things, and we're going to really change it this time by doing X, Y, and Z. So many more people would be happy to rally behind him because of the extreme ownership. But it represents yet another example of how he shifts the blame to anybody else. And people like you and I are like, fool me once, dude. It's like, I'm not trying to get gaslit by this dude again, even though, again, it's like, we might have to support him in the primary, but I'm not going to let him have this 6 months and just sit here and yell MAGA, MAGA, MAGA when we have other people that could be suitable opponents at the very least.
Before he got into office, there was some sort of terrorist shooting in San Bernardino. This just kind of shows you into the eyes of like Trump is far from a libertarian. Let's just put it that way. And there was some terrorist thing, and they were trying to get the information from Apple, and Apple actually ethically said, I don't trust or like Apple that much. I mean, they do have good products, but they wouldn't give up the backdoor key. Because what they said is, if we give you the backdoor key to these terrorists, this is a basic privacy thing. It's the slippery slope. No one's phone is going to be safe. We can't do it. We know we want to crack the code, but if we do this, no one's iPhone is safe. And Trump came out and disagreed with Apple and tried to strong arm Apple into disarming everybody's because of the terrorists. And then he said to get ISIS that he thinks that he was going to call Bill Gates, and Bill Gates should close up the internet. Go Google all the stuff I said. Trump, Bill Gates, close up the internet, San Bernardino thing. Trump was not pro privacy. He was mad at the privacy, and he was totally okay with opening everybody's iPhones to get a terrorist and closing up the internet to fight ISIS. So the reason that nothing was done during his presidency is because he's not that guy. Just like Vivek's not the guy that's standing on the Capitol right now. They're conning you. And when someone tells you they're conning you, you get mad. You want the con. You want to be lied to. You want to get scammed. And the truth, I saw Drano post about it today, and he said, do you really believe that Joe Biden got the most votes in modern history? I'm going to say two things. I do believe funny business occurred. I think that they censored the Hunter Biden laptop story. That's provable. I think mass mail-in ballots is insane to send it to everybody's thing. But here's what Drano and nobody's talking about, because they're professional Pied Pipers. They just run people off a cliff, run people to the Capitol, keep screwing up, keep sacrificing people, and they don't give a crap. The truth is, when everybody's locked in their house, when nobody can travel, nobody's overseas, how many millions of Americans do you think that voted in this election wouldn't have even been in America because they would have been traveling? How many millions of people work in the industry and would have been on tour and don't care that much about Trump or Biden to vote? So you have to understand that tens upon hundreds of millions of people who would have had something to do in a normal society and don't give two licks about politics were stuck in their house, because Democrats, especially in their cities and in their states, but also some Republicans, but mostly Democrats, they made it so you couldn't travel anywhere. COVID in the winter, I mean, it was very locked down still for years in certain Democrat areas. So they locked everything down. They sent everybody mass mail-in ballots. Of course, there's going to be more votes than ever. How do you get more votes than Obama? Dummies, because everybody was locked in the house because they sent mass mail-in ballots to everybody because nobody could travel. You literally couldn't even go overseas in most things. So yes, they cheated, but not how you guys are saying. And the Mike Lindells of the world are professional scammers and con artists. They'll say whatever you want to hear. The Carrie Lakes will say whatever you want to hear. They'll say everything. They'll say it all. It all was this. It all was that. We won all 50 states. Buy my pillow, whatever. And it's like, this is why we're going to keep getting scammed on a loop, because it's like, yes, there was fraudulent actions going on, but you got to understand, Republicans were in on 75% of the fraudulent actions. Republicans signed all the money and signed all of the funding for all of the fraudulent actions that occurred. Republicans sat on their hands as all of it occurred with the censorship for 4 years because they're not who they say they were. And then everybody's stuck in their house and they're acting baffled as how Biden got more votes than Obama. How could he not get more votes than Obama when the entire country is stuck at home and they're sending ballots to your door? Of course, there's going to be more votes on both sides.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that one thing that's kind of masterful that not even just Trump, but like a lot of the politicians are doing is they will say two contradicting points and people will validate their position based on that point, even though they said the opposite of it. It's like, if you say I'm going to do this and then you also say that you're going to do the other thing, somehow people are not connecting the dots where they're saying two things at the same time. And it's like, if they can get away with that, why would they not always do that? It's like, Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine. He's going to fight Ukraine. And then there's a video of him, and then there's a video of him on Maria Bartiromo being like, Europe needs to send them an extra $100 million. Well, I understand what he's saying, but then people will do the gymnastics for him and be like, no. He just meant that Europe needs to give him $100 million. Why is anybody giving them anything? I thought we were going to end it. And I understand how they're connecting those dots, but then let's use one of another million. DeSantis is a Rupert Murdoch, Fox News shill. He's in the pocket of Fox News. Fox News wants him to win. But then Trump is on Maria Bartiromo doing an exclusive interview. He's on Hannity. Hannity's tickling his balls every single day and interviewing him for the 5,000th time. But DeSantis is a Murdoch shill. It's like, well, you can't have both ways, but people cannot connect these basic dots. If DeSantis goes on Fox News one time, he's a rhino. Fox News is trash. It's garbage. We can't trust it. They're globalists. But then if he goes on, like Hannity blew him from the back again, it must be because Hannity somehow is a voice of reason now. It's like he can get away with both sides, and that's why nobody holds him account to anything.
Yeah, I'm almost at peace with the situation now because it like for a while I was like the left is insane, the left is nuts. It's like it's all the left, like they're nutbags, they've lost their mind, they're brainwashed, they're psychopaths. And now I'm realizing that it's kind of both sides. I mean, I still will vote Republican. I think it's better, but the same mind control tactics they use on the left, they just use on the right. But instead of like rainbow flags and vaccines, they use bald eagles and Trump. So it's like the same dynamic of the brainwash. Like, what do Democrats believe? Like, I don't care if I agree or disagree, but like, what do you believe? You're all holistic, right? But you don't think twice about synthetic mRNA going into your body, but you're gonna not eat Cheerios or something because there's like gluten in it. I don't understand that, but maybe you do. But also, maybe it's because they used a character like Donald Trump and they put Trump there and they said he's the villain. So if he does this, you do this. If he does this, you do this. And the Democrats, they weren't even thinking about what they were doing because they were so angry and emotional about Donald Trump that they just lost their mind. And now I don't think they've ever regained it. On the right side, I think Donald Trump, it's like the Pavlov dog experiment. He did a lot of good things and said a lot of good things for a while. So you give people a treat and then you take away the gist of it and people think it's still there. For instance, I've already proven, I know this makes people mad because I actually do video journalism, but I believe that Donald Trump was so rich he didn't need anybody's money. It's a great talking point. It's a great thing. I'm not mad that he's rich. I think it's awesome. He's like a legend, but also he doesn't need to take money from people like Sheldon Adelson. He doesn't need to take money from people like Pfizer. He doesn't need to take money from the banks, but he did. He did take money from Sheldon Adelson. He said that Sheldon Adelson would turn Marco Rubio into a little puppet. And then he took the money. He said on the campaign trail that, these corporate guys are trying to give me donations. And I keep telling them, no, I'm such a stupid guy. I'm such a stupid person. I'm so stupid for not taking their money. But he did take their money. It's like he lied to his base. But nobody calls him out because they're all eating steaks at Mar-a-Lago. Like he straight up lied. It's the truth is he lied. He did take their money, donor money, corporate money, hundreds of millions of dollars, not little baby money, hundreds of millions of dollars when you total it up. Does anyone care? They'll get more mad at me for telling them that than them. You get what I'm saying? So it's like the right is brainwashed by Trump the same way the left's brainwashed by Trump. They just like him too much, where now he's basically like a court jester, controlled op where everything revolves around him. Not the pandemic, not the lockdowns, not the money printing, not anything else. It's him. If he says left, they go left. If he goes right, he says right. If he says not a single dollar should be sent to Ukraine by Europe or America, people go, not a single dollar should be sent to Ukraine by Europe or America. If he goes, Europe should send about $100 billion. And then the people are like, well, Europe, not us. It's like people don't have real beliefs. They will say and do whatever he wants, which is just as stupid as somebody who's defending what Biden says. It's like, it's being like, well, I don't agree with that, and that. Well, then say you don't agree. It's okay. You could still vote for who you want to vote for, but like you got people out here pretending to believe things they don't even believe because their head is so far up Trump's ass. It's going to destroy the entire party. And people like Carrie Lake and Mike Lindell, God bless them, are going to crash you into the floor and make millions off it. They don't give a shit whether you win or lose because whatever they say, they know you'll eat it up. So there is no strategy to actually successfully win an election. Just say whatever about everything all the time and people will like it more than the unfortunate truth.
Well, yeah. Well, there's another example of getting it both ways. You say, I don't need their money. I'm really rich. I'll never take their money. Then you take their money and then you're like, oh, but it's not a big deal. So it's like you got to say the one thing, but then you also got to say the other thing. And then the only people that are spending this much time, investing this much time into following it, discover these two things that contradict themselves, and people are mad at you for discovering it. I've said this a million times, but I used to think that I was really tuned into politics. I would listen to 2 to 3 hours of political content a week, and I was like, I'm pretty in the know. Most people don't even know this much. Now that I consume 43 hours of political content or whatever a week, you see all of the parallels. And the only people that can point it out are people like us, because who else has the time to do it? And then people get mad that we just discovered what actually occurred. It's like the guy
Right.
says this and then does this, and here's the proof. And they're like, Ron's a rhino. He's so endorsed by Soros. It's like, what are we even talking about?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, if I said on Twitter, I mean, I should try the experiment. Like, yo, DeSantis took $160 million loan from Soros at one point in his life. That proves he's controlled. People would be like, that settles it. I can never vote for him. If he took that much money at any point in his life, he's controlled. But if I tell people to Google that with Trump and see if it comes up for his Chicago Tower, now all of a sudden it doesn't matter. So the contradictions are not just there from what Trump says 2 different times. But say like donors give $200 million to Trump. Well, no, he doesn't take other people's money. Well, no, he did. Well, it doesn't matter. That won't change his. Okay. But I can't vote for DeSantis because DeSantis took money. I'm like, so why would that change DeSantis but not Trump? Why is there not a possibility that if that money wouldn't change this Trump, that wouldn't change DeSantis? My opinion of it doesn't seem to be popular. I think they both are controlled because when anybody, whether it's DeSantis or Trump, takes hundreds of millions of dollars, usually there's a favor to be had. And the thing with Trump and DeSantis is like, I'm looking at the actions where when I see DeSantis taking money from this, and this, I'm not giving him a pass and saying, oh, he's amazing. I'm like, he probably will cave just like Trump caved. But I'm going off of the things that he's doing, and I'm weighing. I'm like, well, he's done this. He's banning central bank digital currencies. He actually cares about the kid in school stuff. He seems passionate about that. He seems very strategically smart. Like he always gets ahead of stuff. And Trump is like a big goofy clown. He just says whatever, doesn't believe anything. I don't even think he's really that conservative. I think he's a liberal. When he talks about COVID, he sounds like CNN more than he sounds like DeSantis. He doesn't have these actual stances. He's the most selfish person. I used to love the guy. And now I'm like, dude, he would literally take his supporters and chuck them in a fire pit to hell before he told the truth about something he doesn't want to tell. That's why his whole cabinet was snakes. It's not because he's this big guy that just doesn't know anything. It's because he doesn't like good, authentic people. He likes people that are sneaks. He likes snakes. He likes that. He doesn't want a Thomas Massey around to be like, hey, don't print the money because that makes you a socialist. And Trump's like, shut the hell up, Massey. Get out of the party. All right, let me take Anthony Scaramucci or whatever sleazeball is going to say what I want for 5 minutes until I realize like that's the type of person he just is. So it's just crazy that people don't see it. And yeah, I don't. The double standards are as bad as liberals now. The MAGA group has as many double standards as liberals.
No, it's true. And people like, they think of him as like their friend, which is a tough position for somebody that's looking at it like objectively from the outside to deal with. Cause it's like, I like the guy too. The guy's hilarious, but it's like, we can't let him just lie. We can't use this period of time where we have the kind of like the real impact to be had where the one person gets chosen to just completely overlook these things, because it's like, you can like two things can be true at the same time. You can like the guy, you can like his character, you can think he's a great man, you can think that he loves America, you can think any variety of things, that he helped to build a great economy, that all these things, but you can't deny these actual real things that happen and just completely overlook them because you like the guy. And so much of politics is this like gut feeling. People talk about it's my gut. It's like, that's the type of thing that you have when you're validating a person in your life that you have a real relationship with. If I'm standing next to a person and I'm judging whether or not I want to be friends with them, and I've only known them for a certain period of time, and I don't have a laundry list of evidence of all the things they've done in the past, I have to use my gut to make these decisions and then validate it over time as I get to know them. With a politician, it's like, here's how they voted here. Here's what they said. Here's what they did. It's like it's a different relationship. This is not a friend. This is not a guy to have a beer with. It's like, you guys are getting bamboozled by marketing. How many times have we, I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for good marketing. I'll go online and I'll look at a restaurant that has the right lights and the right tables and the right vibe and the right name and the cool menu and whatever. And I'll go and I'll get bamboozled by the food. It'll be subpar, but it looks like it's there. And you hate feeling bamboozled like that. That's what Trump is. It's like, it's a great marketing package. It's wrapped up in a bow and you want to like it. But when you taste the food and it's not what you thought, you can only do one of two things. You can keep going back and tolerate it, or you can realize that maybe all of these indicators that trained me to believe that this would be good actually didn't come true when I actually tasted the food. And it's like, we have this evidence. If we're just going to keep going back and saying the burger's all right, then we're going to get all right burgers forever.
Yeah, and I think people always ask me, they're like, if you think this so strongly, like, why don't you run for office? Why don't you run for office? First thing, I don't think that's the solution, because honestly, if I ran for office and you guys did the same thing you do with Vivek and Trump, I could just scam you too. I mean, I wouldn't want to, but the thing is, like, that's where the money is. It's like, that's where the votes are. You can't tell people the truth all the time. They don't want to hear it. So we have to change ourselves. And also, journalism is important. I think if I ran for politics, I might turn into a car salesman too. I don't think I would. I'm an ethical person. I would like to think that I never would, but it's like, it's a grimy, disgusting industry. It's just gross. I don't like it. Me doing what I do is not like, oh, I can't walk the walk. Someone has to ask. It's like saying, well, if you're going to ask the car salesman a question, and the pyramid scheme seller a question, that then you're a bad person. Like, which pyramid scheme seller do you like? It's like, you don't understand the game. The game is the negotiation. So if you don't negotiate at all, you're losing every time. It doesn't matter if it's Trump, Biden, or Vivek. Someone needs to ask them the tough questions. Somebody needs to realize, like Bobby said, they're not your family member. They're more close to somebody selling you poison than they are a family member. That's what they're closer to, like a poison seller. So if that's what they are, you got to look, like he said, at what they do. So if Trump did a few good things, that's amazing. Remember that and appreciate that over Biden. But if he didn't do 100 things, to me, it's kind of wild that people are saying, well, I just hope he does because he got caught in a bad situation. It's like, well, first of all, most of the charges now, he got caught in a bad situation because he told his vice president that he should decertify the results because he ran out of other options. I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's highly stupid. He's not a smart leader. He's not a good leader. He runs his supporters into the ocean. They drowned. And then he's like, well, I didn't tell him to drown, but they just drowned. It's like, he's not a good leader. He's going to keep setting people up. I want to say something else real quick. I'm sorry to go on, but someone said in the comments, I wanted to read it before I lost it. Lindell accused DeSantis of cheating in his election. This is my last straw. This is why I actually really don't like Mike Lindell anymore. For a while, I'd be like, I like him. I think he's a good guy. Honestly, I think he's like a salesman. He's a skis. But when he said that, it's like, Ron DeSantis won the election. Ron DeSantis flipped the city. Ron DeSantis won by a lot. He cleaned up the voter rolls. He did things like a one-day election. These are all the things that Mike Lindell claims to want in every other state. DeSantis did it, and he won big, also with his leadership, also by being conservative. He didn't have to be liberal to do it. And then the only reason Mike Lindell said that is because DeSantis and Trump started, quote unquote, beefing. So Lindell took the side of his boy and said, well, that's my boy and DeSantis is against him, so I'm going to say he cheated. I know damn well, and Mike Lindell knows in his stupid little mustachy, con artist head, that if DeSantis was saying Trump, 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 MAGA, 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 that Mike Lindell never would have said, oh, he cheated. He's only saying that from a political angle, which means he's a fake, which means everything he's saying is bullshit. Of course, he gets it right sometimes. So it's like, this is what the controlled opposition looks like at this point. You got a guy who claims he wants to save elections, who will just say and do whatever he can. And then when someone actually has a great election on our side and does good leadership, he tries to say that it wasn't right. It's like inverting reality. And people are like, well, go to frankspeech.com. Why? There's 5 people probably sitting on there and like a bunch of dads. I don't want to go on there.
Well, that's the thing, is that, if one was to be a politician, what would you have to master? You would have to master the art of charming people. And it's like, because charm can outshine factual evidence of your track record when somebody is with you in person, because they can play to your natural human instincts of trust, of they talk the right way. I like what they're saying. And it's like, you can overlook all of these things of the past. These guys all are masters of charm. It's like, I like Mike Lindell as a person. It's like, I believe that Mike Lindell genuinely cares about America. I think he would be obviously he's a good businessman, but it's like, but you can't let somebody charm you off of a cliff. It's like, if they say things that are wrong, but you still like them despite that, it doesn't mean that you have to just allow them to keep doing it. It's like the same with Trump. It's like a trap. It's like, you want to like the guy, and you do, but it's like, it doesn't change the fact that all of these things occurred. And the thing about 2016 is that he had the benefit of the doubt. It's like, if he says you're going to be winning so much that you're going to get sick of winning, what evidence do we have to say that we won't, that won't happen? There is none. But it's like, now that we have 4-6 years of evidence, things that he said, things that occurred, and all of the people around him that have flipped, it's like, how could we not hold them account? How could we not at the very least ask him about these things? And none of these supposed journalists are even asking him the real questions about these really real things that happen. So then you have the people like us that are stepping out and doing the job that other people should be doing. And everybody just yells MAGA at us. Is like, you're negative. I'm unfollowing. You're hating now. It's like, you don't want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Someone said, why don't you interview Trump? Trump, Vivek, RFK, all these people are invited on. Their campaign managers in some case follow me. They don't want a real interview. Trump doesn't even want to debate DeSantis, let alone an interview with me. Are you kidding me? He wants to run around to Sean Hannity's where they just lick his boots. But I will say this too about DeSantis. Someone said he's a globalist. I'm not here telling you to trust DeSantis. I'm here telling you to hold Trump to the same standards that you hold DeSantis, and then make your choice off of who you think's a better leader. I don't trust DeSantis. I think that there's elements of him that are controlled, but if I compare him to Donnie's controlled in all the same ways and controlled in even more ways, and he's even worse of a leader than him. So Trump has brainwashed people into thinking he's not a globalist, but DeSantis is a globalist. Donald Trump still runs around the country saying he saved the world with the globalist vaccine. You think there's ever been a product in world history, in modern history, that the globalists didn't like more than the COVID vaccine? And Donald Trump calls himself the father of it. He used socialist warp speed to rush it to the public. He hired a pharmacy lobbyist to knock out the liability through an emergency, so they never had to pay for side effects, injuries, and deaths. So you're sitting here telling me that the guy who's selling the globalist vaccine harder than Bill Gates isn't a globalist, but the other guy is, but you don't hold Trump to the same standards? All of these people are fake. You know, if Donald Trump was saying what DeSantis was saying about the vaccine, which is actually coming around and speaking more truth about it, or RFK is saying about the vaccine, which is way more truth, and it was actually DeSantis that was saying my vaccine saved 100 million lives, you know that Carrie Lake and freaking Mike Lindell and all these other little minions would be saying, oh, that the vaccine didn't save 100 million lives. It's not that good. You're evil. DeSantis is evil for saying he's the father of the vaccine. But when it's Donald Trump, they just swallow him like it's a warm ice cream on a sunny day. It's disgusting. These people are con artists. These people are snakes. These people are just such evil. Like, I'm sorry for getting a little passionate about it, but it's like, I'm disgusted by these people. I believe what I say. If DeSantis does it, I believe it. If Trump says it, I believe it. If Biden says it, I believe it. They don't believe shit. Because if I could make a world where DeSantis said he's the father of the vaccine and is saving 100 million lives, Mike Lindell would be on his stupid website every single day railing against that. And so would Alex Jones, and so would InfoWars, even though, you know, and I know that they have a little bit, but, you know, it's like these people are just professional Trump knob gobblers. Literally, they would probably gobble his knob and lick the dirt off his shoes before they told you guys the truth. And why wouldn't they? It's a cash cow. Telling the truth loses their spot.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that it's like another perfect example of this is the tariffs, because now Trump is saying that DeSantis is in the pocket of China because he wants to take away tariffs on Chinese goods. And I remember when Trump was in office, he said that he was going to put a big tariff on China. And I went against my best knowledge, knowing that tariffs are paid domestically. And I was like, maybe he knows something that I don't know. But it's like, you like the guy, that you trust the guy, you want to let him run. So you're like, okay, tariffs on China, probably good. Now he says that because DeSantis wants to take these away, that he's in the pocket of China. And then you're like, wait a second. If you just look up the definition of a tariff is paid domestically by the people that are importing the goods, which means that the payer of these tariffs are American taxpayers and American importers and American citizens. So taking away tariffs on Chinese-made goods actually benefits American citizens. And yes, you could say, oh, well, that means that China is going to sell more products. I don't know that less Chinese products sold as a result of those tariffs. Do we have any evidence to suggest that that's the case? And taking the boot off the neck of American citizens and making them pay these tariffs actually probably sounds like a good thing. But people don't even know that tariffs are paid domestically by the country that imports them. So they're just like, Trump says that DeSantis is in the pocket of China, and then that will be cheered around the world because he's a master of slogans, just like the left. He's great at sloganeering and marketing, and people are like, DeSantis is in the pocket of China, but they don't even know what that means. And then when you realize that it's specifically related to these tariffs, they don't even know what tariffs mean. They don't even know who pays them. But he's got the slogan. He packages it up and hands it to you, just like the left does. They're just like, it's the don't say gay bill. Never refer to it as anything but the don't say gay. And to this day, they've got everybody so wrapped up that even we refer to it as that sometimes because the slogan is so catchy. That is what Trump does. And that's what's happening to the people on the right, is like, they don't look to the origins of what it is and do the hard work. And Trump and every other politician is banking on that. If they serve you the slogan and tell you to yell at the other person, people will go and do the bidding without even doing the work to figure out why.
Yeah, like one of the main slogans. It's a genius marketing. He's marketed. Someone says he's an outsider on the front line doing this. He hired 99.99999% insiders, including the pharmacy swampers who scammed you all 2020. And Trump is proud of it. He can literally spit in your face. He's metaphorically spitting in your face, and you're saying that like Biden did it or something. But anyway, you know, that's a slogan where it's like, if you know they're after you, I'm just in the way. Well, you were the president in 2020, you weren't in the way. They did the George Floyd riots in 2020, you didn't stand in the way. Really, you just keep setting your own supporters up. You told them to march to the Capitol to yell at Mike Pence, and now they're rotting in prison. You're not standing in the way. You're basically setting your supporters up and standing in the way of other conservatives who actually probably would stand in the way. But if he markets it and packages it enough, people believe it. On the tariff thing, I wanted to say there's an argument for either. It's a conversation to be had where it's like the pro-tariff argument is because prices are going to be so expensive now that people are going to want to use American goods because the Chinese prices are so expensive. But like you said, it's the American taxpayer who are paying it. The argument against tariff is actually a libertarian one. So anybody that's like really conservative and libertarian, usually, not always, because there are conservatives that are pro-tariffs, usually they're anti-tariffs because it's a tax on the American taxpayer. And it actually, in many cases, hurts American businesses because it drives up the prices. So it not only drives up the prices, it makes it harder for you to get cheap goods, and it's a tax on you. But in that, sometimes the prices are so high from China that you just buy expensive stuff from America instead. So it's like, I'm pro-America. I get both sides of the argument. But Thomas Massey, libertarians, and Ron DeSantis, who's 20 times more libertarian than Donald Trump will ever be, they don't take it from a Chinese perspective. They're doing it from a conservative perspective. Millions of libertarian conservatives believe in free market. Millions of libertarian conservatives don't believe in taxes. Even with the tax code that Trump rewrote, as a small business that has write-offs, I realized that even though he lowered taxes for mega corporations and such, in many ways he screwed me over because he made certain write-offs mean less, So as I'm doing my taxes, like I'm actually probably paying more money than I was before because of just like little changes, you know what I'm saying? But when he's saying all this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is really going to help me. In reality, it's like, not really. I mean, still the Democrats usually raise it more, but I think that Republicans like Trump, they campaign as libertarians. I'm going to lower the deficit. I'm going to not find this. And then he runs up the deficit, and then he prints more than Obama. But then you're a bad guy for realizing that Trump was just as much of a socialist as a Democrat, if not more socialist, because 2020 was the most socialist year on record, to which he still doesn't tell the truth about. DeSantis says that the CARES Act led to inflation. That's 100% the truth. I got in a debate with Six Hexenhammer, 666, skinny satanic guy or whatever, brainwashing a bunch of MAGA people saying, oh, no, it was all Biden. No, you can't print as much money as Trump and the Republicans printed. So DeSantis tells the libertarian truth about that, and Trump pathologically lies like a commie and says that he wouldn't change a single thing that he did. And like MAGA is, in my opinion, it's like a socialist, communist, brainwash, controlled op movement at this point, because they're listening to a guy and be like, well, I guess it's okay to print $6 trillion and hand out UBI checks if our guy does it. Then what's the point of even pretending that don't say you're conservative. Don't say you're libertarian. Don't say you're a Republican. Say you're a Trump. What is it? A Magadonian. You're a Magadonian. You know what I'm saying? You're like it's like the gathering of the juggalos. You just go hang out with them, but you're not conservative or libertarian.
Yes. Well, and back to specifically the tariffs thing and the libertarian perspective on it. The general idea is that the government should not get involved in free market operations, because if I can buy an item for cheaper from China because they're more efficient at producing that item, if you say, oh, we're going to put a tariff on it because now you have to buy it from the US, all that's going to do is allow the US to adjust the price up to whatever the tariff price is. And it's like, and then you save on, let's say, the shipping, for example. So you're price fixing it out. Whereas if China can produce it at such an efficient rate, it's like, allow the American citizen to buy that higher quality item at the lower price, and then they can use that savings to invest into other things that we could produce and export. Let's say, and like technology, we export the majority of the intellectual property of the world. Think about every major tech corporation. Think about how Facebook, WhatsApp, PayPal, all these other things, these are all based in the United States, and we're exporting digital knowledge around the world. We don't have to manufacture widgets in America for them to be the best. It's same goes for like things like steel. It's like, if other countries can produce steel at a higher quality for a lower price, why are you going to punish the American companies to say that the steel has to be produced here when they could use that savings that they're getting lower cost steel from elsewhere to build other things and use that money more efficiently? But instead, the government comes in and price fixes. And anytime that happens, you're getting in the way of the free market. And the free market and capitalism is the ultimate equalizer for giving us the highest quality of life. And it's like, you can't pick and choose. You can't say, I believe in free market capitalism, but I also believe that the minimum wage should be set by some bureaucrat. No, the market should set the minimum wage. And even though it's a hard pill for people to swallow, the real minimum wage should be $0. Uncommon and unpopular opinion, but that's the reality of it. And it's like, you either believe in free market capitalism or you don't. So don't let him tell you I'm a free market capitalist or I'm a libertarian, but then sell you something that's the opposite. It's exactly what I've been saying this whole time. It's like, he gets it both ways. And not just Trump, other politicians too. You can't let them have it both ways. They have to pick one. But if they tell you both, then everybody is satisfied as long as they don't pay attention.
Well, yeah, they're clearly not free market capitalists anymore. They're big pharma socialists. That's what I call it. Where people will be like, Operation Warp Speed, at least he didn't mandate it. It's still socialist. It was free because they paid him. They gave him money. Like, without the socialism from Trump's Operation Warp Speed, we probably never would have been persecuted by big pharma as much, because it would have taken 5 years and they wouldn't have had the money. And that would have been a great thing. And we would have got let out at the same time, because the dummies on the right that say, well, the vaccine saved us from a 5-year lockdown. No, it didn't, dummy. They gave you the vaccine. They told you that. And then in Democrat states, they locked your ass back up in 2 weeks, because that was the whole scam: is steal all your shit, throw vaccine in your face, give it back, then steal it all again. So if you think you need a vaccine to be free, you're a slave. Someone said 2020 was not your typical year, bro. Shut up. This is how dumb the right can be. Like, oh, well, as long as there's an emergency, I'm okay with socialism and communism because it's not typical. Well, let's get another emergency then. Hey, elites, go scam MAGA again. They're so easy to scam. They're like doormats. You stomp on their face and they say, thanks for the dirt on my face. What the elites are like, licking their lips. Like, look at these dummies. Like, we literally scam them. We do socialism. We do communism. And because we gave them Donald Trump, they actually think it's okay. If it would have been Mitt Romney there, you'd have my stance. If it was Ron DeSantis there, you'd have my stance. If it was Hillary Clinton there, you'd have my stance. But because Donald Trump did it, now you're a socialist and a communist because there's an emergency. Well, I hope they do a climate emergency on you. I hope they have another, there's a new virus that's even stronger and bigger and we need to do this. And then they'll be like, well, I mean, he had to do it. It's like, if you have to do socialism and communism, they're always going to give you an excuse to do it. Always. That's what they do. They create an emergency and then they scam you over and over, whether it's a war, whether it's this, whether it's that. That's their playbook. And you haven't figured it out after 40 years. Like, we had to do it. It's like, well, then they're going to keep giving you shit to have to do shit too. You don't get it yet? Dude, Trump has brainwashed the Republican Party. These people are as mind-controlled, as sheep-like, and as docile and as doormat-like as the liberals. Everything that these people are defending, they don't actually believe. If I could flip realities and say Mitt Romney did all this stuff and it's socialist and it's commie and it's scammy and it's corrupt and he hired all these people, they say Mitt Romney's a rhino. Actually, everything I just told you Donald Trump did. Well, let me think about how to make an excuse for it, because I'm a doormat. I love getting scammed. Oh, there's a big pharma guy named Vivek Ramaswamy. I bet he really likes me. I mean, he doesn't believe anything he says. I mean, I read his book and it's the exact opposite, but I mean, I'm sure he really cares about me now. I mean, he wrote that just a year ago. It's like, dude, people love scamming MAGA because they're so easy to scam. They're almost easier to scam than liberals. It's like, if I had to dress up in a costume and scam one side or the other, I don't know who would be easier. Probably MAGA at this point. You just got to be like, the election was stolen and they stole all 50 states and all 17 planets. And then I come along and be like, you know what? They stole all 18 planets. They stole more. Oh, he's more legit than that one because he escalated it. That's what people want.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's actually, it's funny. It's like, if you listen to what they say, They tell the truth. It's like, think about when Donnie said, you know, he was like, we weren't having a problem with the juice until Biden had it. He's like, if I was in there, nobody would have had any problem taking it. Everyone would have taken it but they're not taking it because they don't trust Biden. And
when
then
you say juice, it sounds like Jews. You should probably use another word, because every time you say juice, it sounds like Jews, like the people. I know you're saying juice like orange juice, but yeah, try a different word, because it's probably
the mysterious.
Maybe that's why they took it down. They thought you were talking about Jewish people. You're like, no, the juice.
All right, the magical potion. It's like my brain is trained to not say it just because. But anyways, the potion, he's like, people are having a problem with the potion because they didn't trust Biden.
Vaccine. It's okay. I don't care.
All right. Well, whatever. But either way, it's like that's what he said. And it's like, think about, let's just pretend for a second that Trump stayed in office, right? And then everybody was able to take the vaccine, right? Let's just say that happened. It wasn't by government decree that anybody was forced to take it. In a lot of cases, a lot of corporations forced people to take it, but the fact that it even existed in the first place and they had anything to serve them, it's like, then all of these things would have been on his watch. Would everybody feel the way that they feel about it if he was in there? That's what I don't know. It's like, it was almost a blessing to him that he got out of office while all that stuff happened, because then it's like, wouldn't people have a more visceral reaction? But the thing that makes me fearful and upset about how people are rationalizing this is like, the way that people do gymnastics to cover for Trump for things that he didn't even say. They're like, oh, Bill Barr tricked him. Like he ran a trick on him. It's like, people will come up with gymnastics for it. Would they have done that about the vaccine side effects? Would they have said all these things about how he just got goofed? He's playing 100-dimensional chess. He's 500 miles ahead. He's a time traveler, but he can't see the thing that's right in front of his face. They always making excuses for him. And as long as they do that, especially now in this critical time for the primary, we don't have a chance of winning, because they want to have the guy that they like, and anything that will tell them anything outside of that, they don't want to accept.
Well, I want to repeat this, because this is like the number one lie that I've heard that Trump people are saying. With the vaccine, they'll say the reason that he had to rush it so quickly. Keep in mind, they would never say this if anyone else did this. They don't believe it. This is just an excuse. They're trying, like, they like Trump so much, they can't like think that he just did something wrong. So they're like, let me find this stupid excuse that I actually don't believe. And everybody from bootlicking David Harris to all these other people that, you know, are not QAnon, but somehow push the same exact controlled op narrative. They say, well, what if the vaccine saved us from a 5-year lockdown? It's literally inverted reality. The exact opposite is true. If Trump didn't warp speed it, and he says he rushed Fauci and he rushed the FDA, if they would have had to wait 4 or 5 years, it wouldn't have been protected under the PrEP Act, which is the emergency clause. So by rushing it, Donald Trump didn't hurt Big Pharma or hurt anybody. He saved them. He made them record profits that they never would have made, because if he could get it done really quick when everyone's still locked down and they're declaring these stupid emergencies, then Big Pharma has no side effect or liability for side effects for injuries and deaths. So if Trump didn't warp speed it and it took 5 years, a few things would have been true. One, they have to pay for side effects and injuries, so it's not going to work. It's not a viable product because they don't want to pay, obviously. Two, nobody's going to want it, because after 4 years, you think people are going to give a crap about it? They don't even care about it now, let alone that they needed it right then, because that's the hot spot. That's when everyone was scared. That's when everyone was locked down. That's when everyone was being threatened. So rushing it didn't save the world, and it didn't stop a 5-year lockdown. That doesn't even make sense. The right is just as brainwashed as the left. They're like idiots now. That doesn't even make remote sense at all. It's just this stupid theory that everybody keeps saying because they like Donald Trump. So they're trying to figure out why it was a good thing. It wasn't a good thing. It didn't help you. It didn't help anyone. It helped Big Pharma. It shielded them from liability. It got it into as many people as possible. And then he skirted away into the sunset, screeching like Bill Gates, and you don't even care. Oh, DeSantis is a globalist, but not the guy who's selling the vaccine harder than Bill Gates. Literally harder than Bill Gates. I've made a compilation of what Bill Gates says about the vaccine and what Trump says about the vaccine, and Trump is a sleazier, faker salesman. Bill Gates says there's 3 problems with the vaccine. Bill Gates admits there's side effects with the vaccine. Donald Trump won't say any of that stuff. He's a pathological liar for Big Pharma. He says it saved the world, saved 100 million lives. Yeah, the guy selling the globalist vaccine harder than Bill Gates isn't a globalist. Right. Who said that Bill Gates should close up the internet? Yeah, that's not a red flag, right, MAGA? Let's go to another Fed trap and play the victim for 4 years until we get lured to another Fed trap, and then you get set up again, and it's just going to be a loop, and then there's going to be pillows to sell you. It's like these people are caught in a loop, And it's like they want to drag everyone down with them. I'm not going down to hell with you guys. Sorry.
And the cheaper alternatives would have surfaced because they wouldn't have needed to maintain the emergency use authorization. So the cheaper alternatives like the Z-Packs and the preventative care that Dr. Peter McCullough talks about to this day, all the in-home preventative care, don't even go to the hospital. Go home, breathe fresh air, have a Z-Pack, maybe take some of the cheaper alternatives, which I don't want to mention here because everybody knows what they are, but you say the word and you get censored. Without the emergency use authorization, all of these cheaper things could have been in use. The preventative care and all that stuff could have made it through the mainstream media. And a lot of these things would have hashed themselves out naturally. And then when it comes to the states opening up, before the mysterious potion was out, Florida was open.
Right.
Other states were open. So all of those states would have sucked up like a vacuum all the jobs, all the real estate, all the people, all the money. And the other states would have been forced to cave and forced to open up by the sheer nature of free market capitalism. So the world would have saved itself if it were not for it. It would have happened better.
And that's why the theory makes no sense, because if you look at when the vaccine came out, first of all, the Republican states didn't flinch with the lockdowns after a year when they were open. Republicans didn't go back to it. And the Democrats also didn't open up. They head faked and said, go get your vaccine and we'll let you do shit. I remember in my building, someone was like, haha, I can do things. Yeah. And then a week later, they took all the freedoms away. And they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, I told you they were just saying that to get you the thing. And then they put you right back into lockdown. So in no way, shape, or form is this it's the number one theory in MAGA world. He saved the world from lockdowns. The vaccine didn't do anything when it came out to stop the lockdowns in Democrat states. Republicans didn't cave. It was the competition between Florida. There's articles, I think we covered it, or I covered it without you one time, that New York and California lost up to $1 trillion during that stuff. So they're just losing money, losing real estate, losing businesses. That's what got them to open. Had nothing to do with the vaccine. The vaccine was the head fake. So the fact that you got controlled opposition Republicans saying, oh, Operation Warp Speed was amazing because it saved the world from a 5-year lockdown. That makes no sense on the vaccine side. It makes no sense on the reality side of why California actually opened up. They were locked down 2.5 years after the vaccine. On what planet did that save you from the lockdown? People don't believe this stuff. Their head is so far up Trump's ass that their whole brain's filled with shit now. Trump shit in their brain. It's insane. Like nothing they say makes sense anymore. And they don't even realize it because they're like, well, I follow Dan Bongino and he dunks on the left all the day, so I must be right. Yeah, the left is crazy, but you're also not making sense anymore. You've lost your mind. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, dude. Because this is the same thing I think that happened in 2016. It was like when everybody was coming at Trump, the easiest thing to do was be like, this guy sucks. Once you looked into him and you started to realize all of the things that he was saying that were good, you had done the research to prove and validate your point, and then you had to make that decision to go out on a limb and maybe publicly admit that you think that he's better, knowing that you were going to get all this pushback. And that was a big bridge for a lot of people to cross. But 2020 and everybody but 2016 and everybody hating Hillary so much kind of pushed people there. They had to do the work to realize that Trump might have been better and to give him a shot. Well, now that you have what actually might be another better candidate, people don't want to do that work again. They don't want to research why DeSantis might have a better message at this time, or anyone else for that matter, because they realized how difficult it was for them to cross the bridge to even get to Trump. The easiest thing to do is just yell MAGA, recite whatever slogans he feeds you to say Ron's a meatball globalist, China shill, or whatever, and then just keep going along. And then you get all the social validation online of people just trying to dunk on anybody that's not on Donnie's coattails. And it's like the easiest position to hold in right-wing politics right now. It's like, I wish that people were willing to put in the work that they did in 2016 to realize that he was better. I wish they were doing that now, or at the very least, holding DeSantis accountable and holding Trump accountable in the exact same way. People will say
standards.
Yeah, they're like
the same standards. That's all I'm asking for.
They're like, Ken Griffin donated to Trump or donated to DeSantis. Ken Griffin. It's like, Ken Griffin also donated to the Trump PAC. And they're like, but that's not him. It's like, yes, it is. You can't have both ways.
I know you got to go soon whenever you have to. I just want to do this last one. And then if you have to pop out, I might stay a little bit. Sorry if you guys can't see this, but it's a Trump True Social. He says, I need one more indictment to ensure my election, in all caps. So he's out here saying, and Jason Miller shared it on Twitter, he's saying, I need one more indictment to ensure my election. Just one more, and then I'll win automatically. What's he saying? He's saying that he knows that the indictments are helping him win the primary. So this is what I think personally. I think Democrats are not stupid. I mean, they're evil, but they're not stupid. They play chess. I'm not going to say, because I don't do envy and stuff like that, but like I wish the Republican Party played chess for us and the truth as much as Democrats play chess for the lies, because they play chess for their little evil homies, but we just get stomped all over by pillow salesmen. But anyway, I think that they're purposely elevating Trump because he's the perfect character. The left goes orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. And like you said, they lost their minds over this guy and they don't think anymore. They just emotionally want to like fight him. And then on the right, they're like, orange man good. Everything orange man does, he saved the world with his vaccine lockdown, even though I don't like vaccines. Like he's made both sides lose their mind. He's the perfect candidate to just like, why wouldn't they put him in? Like what threat is he? I mean, maybe he'll do something. I want to get your reaction. And also I want to say this is like, I liked Trump's foreign policy. I thought overall, I'll give him an A. I thought he did a great job. But when people be like, he didn't start a war, he's the first president of why? He didn't start an overseas war, but in my opinion, big pharma and the government waged war on the American people, not a full-blown physical war, but a mental war, a spiritual war, a psychological war, economic war. I mean, the COVID lockdowns, the vaccine sales, the money printing, it was basically like all the bad things they did all over the world. They just focused that energy and threw a bunch of bad stuff at us and treated us worse than they've ever treated us in modern history. So I don't wish harm on anyone in the world. But if you were to ask me, like the way that Trump says, well, Obama did a bad job with swine flu. Actually, he didn't, because the country didn't lock down. So I don't know how many people died from swine flu, but if Obama didn't lock the country down, then he did a better job than you. Like the fact that Trump thinks that Obama did worse with swine flu with no lockdown, but he did a good job with the COVID, it just shows you where his head's at. He's like more of a communist than he is a libertarian. He doesn't give a crap about anything but himself and his image. And I'll say one more thing too. When we were talking about alternative medications, he stopped talking about them and he's never talked about them since. When did he stop talking about them? When the vaccine came. Do you know why? Because he doesn't give a shit. With those, I think he knew or thought that they worked well. So he wanted to make the deaths go lower to make himself look good. Like the less deaths that he had when he was in office, the better he looked. If he really believed in it so much, how come he never talked about it after the Moderna vaccine got there? Because Trump doesn't give a shit. He knew that if he could keep those numbers down, it looked good for him. And as soon as his little Bill Gates Jr. vaccine or whatever you want to call it came out, all of a sudden he doesn't care about those alternative medications that much. He talked about the one that was under Operation Warp Speed and had government funding. So it's like he's a politician, just like everyone else.
Yep. And that's the sad part, is that if you were a brilliant marketer, you would latch on to the thing that serves your need. And he understands that being the outsider, being the enemy of the deep state is the winning message. And all of these indictments simply validate that point. And as long as people are willing to agree with that really well-crafted marketing slogan, then he thinks that the pathway for him to get in is more than obvious. But people that are willing to call him out, or at the very least ask him questions about the other things, he knows that not touching those things ensures that he can be the outsider and he can be the villain that everybody wants to. He's like the underdog. But it's like, if people don't realize that this is not going to convince any swing voter, this is not going to convince any independent voter, this is not going to convince anybody that wasn't here before to come over to your side. It's like, he may win the primary. He may win the primary 99% of the vote. But do you think he's going to win the general? This is a different game that we're talking about. And all of us that are tuned in, that are going to vote in the Republican primary, I feel like a lot of people are completely overlooking the only thing that matters, which is who will win the general election.
But people don't even care about that anymore. I think, like, when I talk, we've talked about this a little bit, but when I talk to certain groups, I understand that some things that I'm going to say are unpopular. I understand that this might not work for this. But when you talk to people, they actually don't care. Like, they're so intertwined. And I'm not saying everybody, but they're so in MAGA world where it's like, we don't care what anyone thinks. Screw you. It's like, well, how are you going to win a general? Well, it's rigged. It's like, well, then how are you going to win?
Yeah.
Well, it's rigged. We can't win. So then why are you running? Well, because I don't like DeSantis. I want Trump to win. Okay, so then we're going to vote for him, right? Well, we don't have to. It's rigged. But then how's he going to win? Well, it's like, nothing makes sense. I'm willing to look at the bad things about the election and fix them, but they're caught in like a loop that doesn't make any sense. And when it comes to like DeSantis's track record since he's been in Congress, look at it. Look at his track record. Look at the stupid crap he's done. Look at the times he's sold out. Look at the money he takes. Look at all that with DeSantis and hold him accountable for that and say, hey, you work for me, bucko. You know, you could even put on a Peterson, hey, bucko, you clean your room and do your shoes or whatever, you know, and hold him accountable. But here's the crazy part. Also do that with Donald Trump. If I looked at what DeSantis did and said, I want him to turn that policy because it's wrong, and we hold it to him and he does it. And with Trump, it's like, they just assume he's going to do the right thing. But it's like, why would he, when some of the worst stuff he does, he's completely unapologetic about it. RFK has changed stances that he's had that are bad. Vivek has changed stances that he's had that are bad, and I don't trust him. DeSantis has admitted he made mistakes and changed stances. Donald Trump doesn't change anything. Like, he's like literally like, no, my COVID vaccine is still amazing. I saved 100 million lives. I didn't make a single mistake during lockdown. And people were like, he's going to be different this time. Why? Because you want him to be? Why? Because you think because the Democrats purposely elevated him that just magically that's going to motivate him to do the better thing? Because he was already being persecuted his entire presidency. And on the second to last day, he didn't pardon you. He didn't pardon the QAnon shaman or his loyal patriots. He gave awards to Fauci and Milley. We all knew Fauci was bad. Everybody knew the Milley stuff. Jared Kushner, that's who he gave awards to, and Big Pharma. He doesn't give a shit about you guys, and nothing has changed. And he's so powerful over little minion MAGA that he knows he doesn't have to change. DeSantis has to change to get elected. Vivek needs to change to get elected, but Trump doesn't have to change. He could literally get on stage and piss in everyone's face, and they would say that it's a magic potion that might give him alternative life forever. Like, that's the power he has over these people. So he's the most dangerous politician at this point because he's the only one that conservatives don't have any ethics, morals, or basic common sense for. Like, how in the world do you think he's going to be different this time when he's on stage telling you he's not going to be, and you just go, yeah, Lindsey, it's like, you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, and again, and he said on True Social a couple of days ago, he was like, DeSantis is a big Fauci admirer, and it's just like how I don't understand how people are. It's like DeSantis said he wanted to prosecute Fauci when he gets into office and talked about all the bad things that he's done and has been talking about him for however long time. I haven't heard Trump say that many things about Fauci. Fauci himself said that he never really pushed back on any of the stuff that he said. He gave him the award. He allowed him to get on the podium. And people say, well, they couldn't have fired him. Well, you don't have to do press conferences with him every day. So it's just like they can get it. He gets it both ways. He can be the Fauci admirer and say DeSantis is a Fauci admirer, and people are like, yeah. It's like, nobody is like holding him account. And to me, that is the greatest threat of all, is that the people are not holding him to any account. Forget the same account as DeSantis, any account whatsoever.
It's like a gaslighting humiliation ritual. Let me know whenever you need to go, because you could tap out and
yeah, like 5 more minutes.
All right. It's like a humiliation ritual to see how far we could go. So it's like, all right, DeSantis sold the vaccine at first, right? He went on stage, he sold the vaccine, he was doing this, he was doing that. And then at a certain point, once the evidence came out, like it became so obvious that like it just didn't make sense anymore. Like when Ben Shapiro came out, DeSantis hired the right guy, Joseph Ladapo, and now he's totally changed his stance and he's more interested in talking about other stuff. It doesn't mean what he did was right, but it is at least somewhat honorable to admit you were wrong and turn the corner. With Trump, he's never turned the corner. He's never admitted he's wrong. He's never changed his tune. And now he's on True Social just trying to gaslight people to be like, DeSantis likes the vaccine. It's like, we all know that he did that, but the difference is he changed his tune. He turned around. He put together a grand jury. He called out Fauci. He's doing all this stuff. He hired an actual Surgeon General. He had a press conference with vaccine injured people to show it. And you've done nothing. You're still lying and gaslighting about it. So like Trump's whole campaign, he's lost his mind, and everybody following him lost it. It's like he'll literally sit there and say anything and people believe it. He'll go from saying Florida crushed, Gavin Newsom to I won't hit Gavin Newsom because he's so nice to me and he flatters me, and then saying that Florida actually didn't do a good job. He put out an email that said Florida is one of the worst places to live, one of the worst places to die, one of the worst places to work, one of the worst places to raise your kids, one of the worst places with police officers. He's a liberal who flees a liberal state and goes to a conservative area and tries to change it to a Democrat. He says, "Oh, it's such a bad place to be." Then go somewhere else, bro. Why are you a Florida resident now if it's so bad? He doesn't believe any of this shit. He just knows his base is so subservient they'll believe anything. It's like, what a slap in the face to move to Florida, run away from Democrats, and then put out an email just because DeSantis is running against you. Don't people realize that? I'm not saying you should trust DeSantis, but when DeSantis talks about Trump, he just has to tell the truth. And when Trump talks about DeSantis, 7 out of 10 things he says are a lie. If DeSantis is so bad, why is everything out of Trump's mouth a lie? Like, why can't he just tell the truth? People haven't thought of that?
Yeah, because they just don't want to hold him. They just don't want to hold him to account. And then people will say, like us, it's like people will get mad at us for saying things that might be critical, or even not even just us, anybody saying things that are critical, or at the very least pointing out things that Trump actually did. And they have every response locked and loaded. Oh, you're a DeSimp. Oh, you're simping for DeSantis. Like, I didn't even say DeSantis. I'm just saying that this is what happened. And they're like, oh, you voting for Biden now? I didn't even say Biden. I didn't even say vote. I just said Trump did this thing. And they're just like, you have Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, do I? There's 5,000 videos of me being like, vote for Trump and liking him 98% of the way through. But they just like, that's the thing. It's like if you can't talk to somebody about things that really occurred, that is the left. It's like arguing with a person and then they say something and you go, you just said that. And they go, no, I didn't. It's like, no, but you did just say it. Here's a video of you saying it. Yeah, but I didn't mean that. Okay, well, if we don't mean it, but you said it, then we don't even have any common ground. It's like, we're not even operating in the same universe. It's a waste of time. And that's what happens when you argue with people on the left about stuff. So it's like, they're doing the same thing that we hate about the political left as it relates to Donnie, because he didn't start any foreign wars. He's likable. He's funny. He makes fun of Chris Christie, and he did a lot of things that are good. So it's like, okay, so he gets a free pass forever.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you have anything else to say? Because I know you got to run soon. I want to give you the floor before I got always stuff to say.
Well, I would just say that to me, people like it. It's not. It is economic. Let's just say economically and socially inconvenient to say things about Trump at this stage, and to encourage people to, at the very least, be critical of him, at least now until the primary, and to say things like DeSantis might be a good candidate. These are politically inconvenient, economically inconvenient, follower count inconvenient, distribution inconvenient things to say. So I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to come out and say those things, not because I hate Trump or that I love DeSantis, but because this is the needed message that happens at this time. And I just wish that people would recognize that of all the stuff that their favorite political commentators are talking about, it's like, if you talk about the 80% of things that don't really matter and ignore the 20% of things that really matter, then it's like, what you're taking yourself out of the conversation, the hard conversation that really needs to happen. To me, the most important thing happening right now in American politics is who gets picked as the jockey to run on the horse of right-wing conservatism, republicanism in the primary. This next 6 months, to me, is the most crucial, I think, for just America in general. So us not talking about, debating, and discussing these things, I think is counterproductive to what all of us are trying to achieve. He's not going to save anything, but this is a very limited window of time where something very significant will happen that will at the very least change what we're talking about. So I would encourage more people, if they like DeSantis or if they're critical of what Trump did, to talk about it and join in on this conversation, because there's a lot of mudslinging right now. And the fact that people are afraid to jump in means that we don't really have a pulse of what people really feel. So I would just say, in the next 6 months, be critical of the people on our side, because we're all going to need to coalesce around whoever wins the primary. And this is the moment that this conversation needs to be had. So I wish that more people would be willing to participate in that, irrespective to what will happen to their t-shirt sales, their follower count, and the amount of people that will yell things at them.
And to those, I was not trying to get rid of Bobby. He told me that he had to leave at 3:30 and it was 3:42. So instead of just talking over him, I wanted to give him some time because I know he's running out. He could stay for an hour if he wanted to. I was not trying to get rid of him.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, I do need to go. But dude, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for being here.
All
So
right,
I'm gonna
guys.
stay on for a little bit more, guys. One thing I was gonna say is I did an article on DeSantis debating Gavin Newsom. And some of I mean, everybody say what you want. I'm glad people are having conversations and even looking, but some of the conversations said, I don't even care. They're both exactly the same. You know, Newsom's the same as DeSantis. And I'm thinking to myself, did you not see what happened in Florida in 2020 and 2021? Did you not see what happened? DeSantis made mistakes. I've never said that he didn't make mistakes. I'm not covering for his mistakes. I don't agree with them. I think he should face them like a man and a leader. And he, to his credit, he's faced not all of them, but most of them. And he has agreed that he's done wrong, which is respectable. But to say that what happened in California and what's happening in California and how he's leading Florida are exactly the same is insane. I wouldn't even say that with Trump or anything. And the thing is, in this next election, to me, the biggest thing, or at least one of the things that I know will get done, because Republicans don't actually do that much on the national scale sometimes, is judges, Supreme Court judge. I think Clarence Thomas and Alito probably want to leave at some point, and maybe they're waiting for a Republican. You know, I personally think DeSantis would pick better judges than Trump, but if it were Trump versus Biden, I'd still vote for Trump because I think he'd pick better judges. And to those who say, no, DeSantis is a rhino, he'd never pick a good judge, Trump picked worse judges than the Bush family. That's a fact. Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are factually much better than Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh. I mean, I don't know if I'd say factually. It depends what you believe is good or bad. But when it comes to conservative values and libertarianism and principled constitutionalism, Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas are the top two most Republican judges, or at least conservative in their voting or constitutional in their voting. Those were picked by Bush and Bush Jr. Look it up. Clarence Thomas was picked by Bush Sr. Clarence Thomas. Samuel Alito was picked by Bush Jr. It's not saying that they're good. It's just saying Trump picks worse people than the Bushes. So this idea that DeSantis wouldn't be able to pick a better judge than Trump, I'm sure he would. He picked a better Surgeon General than Trump. Everybody he hires is better than Trump. That's why one of the many reasons that I like him better than Trump. So some people say, oh, if it's DeSantis and Newsom are the same. I don't care if you don't trust DeSantis, but to say him and Newsom are the same, that's ridiculous. I mean, Trump and Newsom are closer than Trump and DeSantis. Trump won't even talk bad about Gavin Newsom. He says, I can't hit Gavin Newsom because he's nice to me. So on what planet are DeSantis and Newsom the same, but Trump and Newsom aren't similar, even though Trump and Newsom are better friends than DeSantis and Newsom? And I'm not saying Trump's the same as Newsom. I'm just saying if it were Trump versus Newsom, I would vote for Trump, at least for the judges and some other conservative stuff, even if Trump dropped the ball on other stuff. With that being said, I just think it's crazy that Trump has brainwashed people into thinking DeSantis is like a liberal when DeSantis is more conservative than Trump. That's why he's a super gaslighter. It's like DeSantis in many ways is controllable. But if you look at all the ways that Trump is, if you're not a super fan of either of them, and you look at DeSantis and you look at Trump and you look at what they've both done, I mean, look at how they both lead and what they've passed and what their policy is and what actions they've shown. Every way that Trump says that DeSantis is controlled, Trump is also controlled. He does all the same stuff. It's just DeSantis does more good things than Trump does usually. And the only question mark is maybe foreign policy of what would DeSantis or Trump do. But here's my also disagreement with I would say the Trump crowd at this point is, although I think Trump did a really good job in 2016 to 2020, I do think that he has neocon tendencies also. When it comes to Mexico, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dan Crenshaw and Donald Trump have all said that they want to invade Mexico and fight the cartels. I'm fine with them handling cartels when they cross into America, but you're going to invade a southern country and designate them terrorists? Guys, look at every time they've done this. And I'm not telling you to be a fan of the cartels. I'm just saying the cartels run the cities in Mexico. The big cartels keep the cities somewhat safe. In some cases, some of the cities are safer than American cities. And I'm not saying it's good over there. I'm just saying our cities are not that safe right now. Look at the south side of Chicago. Why don't they go invade there? I'm not telling them they should. I'm just saying that's our country and they don't even do shit about it. But anyway, look when we said we were fighting the terrorists in Syria. What happened? We went to Syria, we fought the terrorists, we created a refugee crisis, then they throw all the refugees into Europe, including people who aren't even refugees, and then Republicans cry about it because it's demographic shift. Well, who started the war? I know that Obama did it, but You get what I'm saying? If you started a war in Mexico and you fought the cartels in Mexico like Dan Crenshaw wants to, and Donald Trump wants to, and Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to, what do you think is going to happen in Mexico if you destabilize the cities? Who's going to take over? You're going to take over? You can't even take over American cities. How are you going to take over Mexico? Oh, well, we'll take over. With what? The same way we took over Iraq, failure. The same way we took over Afghanistan, 20 years, gave it back. Same way we took over Syria. Like, what? How are we going to do that? If we are so good at taking over other people's cities and other people's countries, why don't we do it in our own country? Why don't we fix San Francisco? Everybody's getting robbed there. How come we can't fix it? How come Trump can't fix it? Oh, it's not his position. It's not his job. Well, it's not his job to invade Mexico. It's not his job to invade a Middle Eastern country. So, I'm not a super fan of DeSantis where I'm like, you should trust him. You shouldn't. The same people who control DeSantis control Trump. And you can't say who because they'll cry about it. So, just figure it out. But anyway, it's like all the ways that DeSantis is controllable, Trump is also controllable. He's just marketed himself as someone who's not controllable, even though he is. But to me, DeSantis actually leads better. Someone said you're done. That's fine, but clearly you don't have anything you disagree with enough to state it. So, it's like, just don't give either of them a pass. Question DeSantis on what he'd do in Ukraine. Question Trump on if he wants to turn Mexico into Syria and create a refugee crisis and a border crisis like we've never seen before. Question DeSantis on his donors. Question Trump on his donors. Question DeSantis on what he's done. Question Trump on, treat them exactly the same. It's like, well, DeSantis is unloyal. He's unloyal because he's telling the truth about things that Trump's lying about, and now Trump's lying about them. Listen to DeSantis talk about Trump and point out a lie. Tell me when DeSantis says something about Trump, be like, he's lying about that. I'm fine with it. I'm sure he has lied. He's a politician. 50 to 70% of stuff coming out of Trump's mouth about DeSantis, either it's a lie, it's a personal attack or a nickname, or an exaggeration. If DeSantis is so much worse, why does Trump have to lie about it? You get what I'm saying? Just lean into it. It's like, how is it disloyalty? Someone said, I'm done with government. Oh, okay. But how is it disloyalty to challenge someone who's lying? So if Trump's, this is why the base is getting so fake. No offense, but people like Terrence Williams is like a professional Trump. That's all he makes. He can't make criticism because like it ruins his whole brand. He's got to just say like generic stuff. I like Terrence. It's fine. He's a comedian, but whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like if Trump says the vaccine saved 100 million lives and I make a video and say, hey, I don't believe that that's true. I think Trump's gaslighting and lying. Am I being disloyal? Why do you think that none of these MAGA influencers ever make videos about it? You think they don't think it? You think they're stupid? Some of them are, but they know this stuff. They just think this is the world. Your loyalty is not to God. Your loyalty is not to the country. Your loyalty is not to your base. Your loyalty is to him. He's a king. You get what I'm saying? If he lies, you either lie or you tell the truth without countering what he said. Like you can tell the truth about something Trump lies about, but you can't say he lied. You know what I'm saying? Like DC Drano hates the vaccine, but he loves Trump and Trump loves the vaccine. So DC Drano just has to play stupid all the time and pretend like only Vivek sells the vaccine too much and that disqualifies him. Hey, but Trump calls himself the father of the vaccine and he lies even more than Vivek. Oh, I can't say that. Oh, of course you can't. So you're a fake. You're a phony, just like everyone else. I like you as a person, but you're a phony. You're just like everyone else. That's MAGA now. You have to just bow down to your leader. When he lies, either you lie with him or you pretend he never said it. You have to ignore it. If you ever do journalism or patriotism and actually try to stand up to your party when they do what you don't like that the left does or what Vivek does, you are disqualified for a MAGA world. Your loyalty is not to Christ. Your loyalty, I mean, you could say Christ. Of course, they like co-opted Christianity. So like Jesus, Trump, Jesus, Trump's Moses. Like, it's like you could play that game. But when it comes to like, okay, well, he did this and he did this and he said this, and I don't agree with that. And since I do news stuff, I'm going to say I don't agree with that publicly and that he's wrong about that. Now you're out of the club. That's why they never say it. They have to just pretend like only Vivek sold the vaccine, right? Oh, Vivek's disqualified. He's not a real patriot because he was this guy 2 years ago. Trump's still that guy now, but you support him. How does that even make sense? Well, it doesn't make sense. Of course, nothing makes sense anymore because these people aren't trying to make sense. They're trying to show their loyalty to a guy that they want things from. It's just crazy because I'm following it and I'm like, okay, if you like him more than DeSantis, but have a valid reason for it, then that makes sense. If you guys remember, I had Clint from Liberty Lockdown on my show. I'm going to have him on again. We were talking, and I might be a scary guy to disagree with sometimes because I'm so passionate. And I implore you to watch that episode because Clint's great. And I knew he disagreed with me. I could tell it. So I said, don't worry, bro. Say what you believe. You know what I'm saying? Tell me, like, are you going to vote for Trump over DeSantis in 20 whatever? You know, like, just let me know. And I know, like, he probably was nervous to tell me because he's like, oh shit, Anomaly's going to chew me out. But I was like, I want to know your thought process because Clint's a smart guy and I know that he has a reason, right? So at first, the first reason he gave before he gave another reason, if you guys watch it back, was that Don Jr.'s tweets are good. And that based off Don Jr.'s tweets, that he hopes Trump will do something because, like, Don Jr. tweets good. And I looked at him and I was like, that's your reason? You know, and then he like came up with another reason. But that was, if you watch it back, that was his first reason. And like he knew just based off my facial expression and his own logical brain, he's a smart guy, that that's a pretty bad reason to vote for somebody is because his son tweets good things and you hope that he does what his son, like, that's a terrible reason. So then I looked at him and then it was like, for his foreign policy, which makes more sense. Like, that's a legitimate reason. But then he's afraid of nukes and nuclear war, so he thinks Trump will stop that. I don't think you should be afraid of nukes because I'm not even sure what I believe. I don't really want to get into that. But anyway, it's like the fear of that makes you vote for him. That's a better reason. I mean, I don't like to vote based off of fear, but that makes more sense than the first answer he gave. So I ask these sort of questions to people, not to be a dick, but I want to know. Like, if you say, I'm voting for Trump for this reason, I'll be like, that makes sense. I can explain why I would vote for DeSantis over Trump and give 7 different reasons. I've done it a bunch of times. I'll do it again if people want to hear it. But it's like when I ask certain people, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, I think that I can't vote for him because he's a rhino, but Trump hired thousands of rhinos. Yeah, but you know, taking money from them is different than hiring them. It's like, well, hiring them is worse than taking money from them. Yeah, but this, and I'm like, but then Trump also did that. It's like, but yeah, but it's different when he did. Like, I'm not saying that you can't vote for Trump, but everybody's reason doesn't seem to make sense because if they were actually using logic, they probably wouldn't want him as the next leader. But anyway, this is why I challenge people. It's like, even in the comments, if you like Trump more than DeSantis, besides foreign policy, why? You know, what makes you think that he's going to lead better? I'm just curious. Someone said, why'd you delete the Sound of Freedom tweet? Well, there was an article that said that one of the like donors to the movie got caught with like child kidnapping, which is insane. But they were trying to just like overhype who the person was. I'm not saying it was good, but it seemed like some sort of crowdfunding. Like, he wasn't one of the main donors of it. So I think they were like overhyping how connected to the film he was. But I will say that one of the people who backed the film is Carlos Slim, who I believe has connections to the Clintons and like the New York Times. So I just never really fully got into that. But I don't know. I heard it was a good movie. You know, I heard that the movie was like aesthetically, or I don't know if aesthetically would be the right word, but like cinematically, I think is the word I'm looking for. It was a cinematically great movie. But as far as like, I think personally, I think it was an exaggerated story they told, and I don't know exactly what I believe about the people involved, but you know, Jim Caviezel's on Twitter saying Trump is Moses and I'm Jesus, and it's like, I don't know, the whole thing smells fishy to me, but I'm glad people enjoyed it. And it's not like a thing I feel like even diving into right now. Not that I won't talk about it, but I've invited Tim Ballard on my show. He follows me on Instagram. He's followed me for a while. So if Tim wants to come on the show, I'll talk about it with him. I'll ask him about the criticism from the left, from the right. Ask him just in general, because I've seen some tweet threads about what he said versus what it was in the actual court case. You know, it's not something I spent that much time diving into, but I don't know. I say enough controversial things. I think I like to be really sure and passionate when I speak. So about that, it's not like, I don't know. I can't say I'm like enthralled with everything around it as much as everyone else is, but I'm, you know, I'm interested in having nobody wants to do my show. I think they're afraid of me. I understand, and sometimes I could be nicer, but I think, you know, I know RFK has done smaller shows than mine. Vivek has gone on shows with barely any viewers. Like, you know, Trump doesn't do that many interviews, and I don't think he'd ever do a real interview with a right winger. He like, it would ruin his whole thing. You know, the one Candace interview he did, I think, made him look bad because he's just like shilling the vaccine. What's the other guy? DeSantis's people follow me. No one wants to interview with me because I'll give a good interview. I'll give Trump a great interview. I'll give Vivek a good interview. I'm not going to give a stupid fake interview or a softball interview. I wouldn't do it to DeSantis either. So they all can come on my show. They all have the invite. I've made it public. I'm not that hard to email or anything or message. So we'll see if they do it. And it's not like an ego thing, like, oh, I need this, or like I'm just saying I've seen them go on smaller channels. I've seen them go on channels that have like no views, no subscribers, you know, like they're doing a lot of podcasts and stuff. Someone said, we are in the shape for years. People voted for the lesser of evil instead of demanding better. Before I do the last story, which is like this former porn star giving advice on marriage, I know, thrilling. Things definitely won't change, and it's not a pessimistic outlook. It's optimistic if people just get in the zone. We have to treat Trump the same way we treat DeSantis. Like if you believe when DeSantis does this is wrong and needs to be addressed, then you have to do the same with Trump. If you don't, that's who they're going to use to scam you. Why wouldn't you? Imagine if there's two different people. One of them's Hillary and one of them's Obama. And Hillary, everybody hates on, but Obama, everybody thinks is so cool and half black and plays basketball and likes Kendrick Lamar. So when Obama does it, nobody questions him because he's smoother. That's who they're going to go with. Because it's like, well, Hillary's not as smooth and everybody hates on her and calls her out. But when Obama does it, people will accept it. Like, war is bad when George Bush does it, but when Obama does it, no one even notices because he's tweeting out Beyonce playlists. Like, the elites are not stupid. This is what politics is. It's like a puppet showing. It's like, I'm the puppet. And then it's like, oh, that's the one that people believe. Let's go with that one because they keep the illusion alive. It's the bankers. It's the big pharma. It's the foreign entities. It's the, people like Kushner who somehow have so much influence in the administration. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are people that are getting a lot of influence, but as long as there's a character there to absorb the blow, and then as soon as people see through it, they just go to the next character. It's like, George Bush had a good 8 years, and a lot of liberals like George Bush. And then liberals didn't like George Bush, and then liberals really liked Obama. You know what I'm saying? And then Obama did 8 years, and then liberals realized Obama's not really who they thought he was. And then a lot of Democrats voted for Trump. And then Trump had 4 years and it started selling vaccines like Bill Gates. And then Biden got in office, and Biden's so old, people want Trump. It's like, the one that they're going to go with is the one that people like the most because that's the easiest way to do it. And with Trump, he's like Obama in a sense for the right, where he makes it look cool. When Obama started 7 wars, he made it look cool. Like, you didn't even know he was doing it. He was so cool. When Trump prints more money than Obama and becomes a commie, nobody even realizes it because Trump's so cool. Like, he's the perfect politician. He's not his campaign. People were like, he's not a politician. He was the president for 4 years. He's the head of the federal government. He is a politician. It's like saying Ronald Reagan wasn't the president. He's just an actor. No, he was an actor, and then he became a politician and the president. Trump is a politician now. He took the donor money he said he'd never take. He took the corporate money he said he'd never take. He printed the money. He signed the bills. He hired the lobbyists. He's a politician. Trump is just as much of a politician as DeSantis. It's just not a good image to be a politician. It's just like with Vivek. Some people go, I didn't even know he was a pharmacy CEO. Yeah, because he doesn't talk about it that much because people on the right aren't obsessed with Big Pharma right now. Big Pharma just scammed Republicans and Democrats, and a lot of people realize it. So why doesn't Vivek talk about his pharmacy connections a lot? Because it wouldn't help him get elected. He has to pretend like he's this brand new outsider who came out of nowhere, who just says everything you want him to say, even though he wrote books 2 years ago that exactly contradict what he said. You get what I'm saying? It's like bizarro world. So the point of it is like the solution is based on I don't care if you vote for Trump. Treat him like you treat DeSantis. If you give Trump double standards, you're failing your kids, you're failing your nation. If you don't have kids, you're failing yourself, you're failing the country, you're failing the future. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I have ways to go in my personal life too, but it's like, you get what I'm saying? It's not bad to treat him the same. If you don't treat him the same and you don't feel the same way when he does stuff, you're going to get scammed. You're doing a major disservice to your country. It's not loyal. You're not supposed to be loyal to politicians. You're supposed to be loyal to the Constitution. If you're a free market capitalist, I'm not saying you have to be, but if you are, and a politician comes along and does something socialist, your loyalty should be more to your ideas than to that guy. No, you don't think so? It's like I call, and I know with Bobby on, I wasn't trying to push it too much, but like I call Turning Point a socialist organization now. They have a bunch of socialists on and people making excuses for socialism. And there isn't their slogan, socialism sucks. Yet the speaker that's speaking at the headline is a socialist. He's a proud socialist. Operation Warp Speed was socialist. The CARES Act was one of the most socialist things in modern history. And Trump brags about both of them. So why doesn't Turning Point, which says socialism sucks, push back a little bit and say, hey, we like you, but don't you think that that was too socialist? And if this happened, like we should never do that again. But they can't push back. They're phonies. It's not a movement based on ethics or values. There's no loyalty to the Constitution. There's no loyalty to principles. There's no loyalty to capitalism. The loyalty is to the guy. That's dangerous. That's not good. Someone said freedom cities. Yeah, Trump pitched an idea that he said federal government freedom cities. Dude, Trump is such a dingbat of a leader, bro. He's just going to keep setting everybody up and then being like, when he gets in trouble for the stuff that he did himself, he'll be like, they're coming after you because I'm in the way. I believe that at a certain point. And honestly, I'll stand by him when they're wronging him, just like with Andrew Tate and stuff. But it's like, that's not like the full truth of it. He says, I'm going to build a freedom city and it's going to be a federal government city on federal land. They say that like the whole population, I don't know if it's America or the world, could fit in Texas, or I don't know. There's enough land. We don't need to make our national parks and national land. That's like, we should keep the land. We don't need more land. There's land everywhere. We don't need federal. Guys, drive through any state, literally any state except for like New Jersey and a few others, maybe parts of Florida. Drive through California. Most of it's land. Drive through Arizona. Most of it's land. We don't need federal government land. You could build anywhere. Lake Havasu is like, if it was The Sims, it's like, it's like there's so much stuff there. You could build there. You could start a business there. You go. I drove to Arizona. I like Lake Havasu. It's a cool place, but it's like, there's a lot of potential there. If you want something that's not so crowded like San Francisco, you can go to a smaller city like Havasu and start a business, and you might be the only one there because there's like gun shops, like one pie store. So we don't need the federal government building a new city on federal land. That's ridiculous. But that's what Donald Trump said. And then who gets that federal city? When it's done, who gets that city? The Democrats. That's who's going to get it. So he's going to build these stupid commie federal cities. And then the Democrats will eventually win another election. And then the Democrats get to control the federal city. I mean, this is how lack of insight this guy has, or foresight. It's like he just keeps setting you up. And then when we get set up and he didn't plan ahead, he figures out, who should I throw under the bus? He picked Bill Barr, throws him under the bus. He picked Mike Pence, throws him. I don't even like Mike Pence. I never would have picked someone like that, but whatever. Hindsight is 2020. So is the pandemic, but you get it, 2020. Anyway, it's like Mike Pence, he couldn't overturn the election with any of the legal routes, with any of the court cases. So then he takes the closest guy to him, throws him under the bus. That's who Trump is. He just is like scrambling, running around scrambling. And then anytime he gets caught up, he doesn't say, all right, this is where we got to do this. He just goes, here, sacrifice him, sacrifice him, sacrifice him, sacrifice him. Who's he going to hire in 2024? Who's he going to hire? The only person I even semi-liked in his camp was Steve Cortez. I before Steve Cortez endorsed DeSantis, I followed him. I liked him. I read his tweets before he ever said a bad thing about Trump. I was like, out of everybody that was surrounding Trump, it seems like Steve Cortez was like a decent guy. I was like, that guy seems like he actually cares about stuff. And he endorsed DeSantis. It's like, who else is around him? I want to play this clip before I leave. I've been on too long, but changing pace. And then if you guys want to, I'll read a few comments or super chats at the end if you guys have any. I want to just play this clip of porn star Mia Khalifa, or former porn star. Now she's just a beautiful spiritual woman or something. Her advice on marriage, and then I want to take off after I do that and read a few chats.
Oh, we're comparing stats. Baby girl doesn't know that I am Tom Brady at this game. Married at 18, divorced at 21. Second marriage, married at 25, divorced at 28. Third engagement, engaged at 29, ended it at 30, but I kept the ring. I'm still keeping Tom Brady on his toes. We should not be afraid to leave these men. We are not stuck with these people. Marriage is not a sanctimonious thing. It is paperwork. It's something, it's a commitment you make to someone. But if you feel like you're not getting anything from that commitment and you're trying, you gotta go. You gotta go. You have to go. I know it's difficult to fill out paperwork and to make appointments and to do all of these things, but this is your fucking life. Do you want to be stuck with someone? Period. Do you want to be?
So I guess that's who's telling the kids what to do. I want to read a comment real quick. Sorry, I'm not trying to be petty, but I do want to correct the record. Someone said Anomaly hating on Trump to get a hip hop deal. I've never taken money from Pfizer. Trump takes money from Pfizer. I've never taken money from Bank of America. Trump takes money from Bank of America. I've never taken money from Sheldon Adelson. Trump takes money from Sheldon Adelson. Trump's the one who takes the money, not me, okay? I'm pretty much blacklisted from actual record labels at this point, and I don't care because I'm an independent success who doesn't take Pfizer money like Trump. But the point that I'm getting is all the things like, because I don't take money from people like Sheldon Adelson, I'm not going to be able to do that because I speak about lobbying and that type of stuff. I'm pretty much blacklisted from all these things. The things that Trump runs around the world doing bidding for his donors and for his lobbyists and the things that I talk about, he's 20 times more controlled than me. He does 20 times the bidding of the elites that you think you're fighting. And because I won't do that, I won't do what Trump and DeSantis do. I actually am independent. I'm actually an outsider. You know, all those things that Trump pretends to be, that's what I am. I'm an outsider. I don't take their money. I don't sell out. He did. And honestly, DeSantis will too, but you guys can't figure that out. So keep living in this little fake world. Anyway, Mia Khalifa, she was a former porn star. And now I guess she's not a porn star. Now she's telling women to divorce a lot if he's not doing what you want. It's pretty bad advice, obviously. You know, I don't know. That guy pissed me off, honestly. Now I don't even feel like reviewing that because and I don't mind comments and stuff. Someone said Trump made Anomaly a non-essential citizen. Yeah, I mean, my essentialness is whatever during the pandemic, but this is why I do like the members comment sometimes. It's not because I can't answer questions. I just don't like being sidetracked. Because when people say stuff like that, I don't have to answer, but I do want to correct the record. People will be like, oh, Anomaly's just trying to get a deal. Guys, I'm one of the only people that doesn't care. I've built my own business that I don't need to care. And even if I was broke again, I still wouldn't care. I'm not a sellout. Trump is. I get so tired of people like, oh, you're doing this because you want the money. You mean the money he took? He took money from Sheldon Adelson. Not me. Okay. So hundreds of millions, tens of millions of dollars. Oh, but that's not selling out. But me talking about it selling out. You guys are just as brainwashed as liberals. Whatever. I don't even feel like talking about the Mia Khalifa story. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. God bless you. Have a good weekend. And hopefully somebody listens and cares because at the end of the day, this country is going to just keep doing what it's doing. The left's going to keep destroying their cities and blaming Trump. And the right's going to keep like just tripping over their own feet and being like, oh, you know who I really trust now? Not the governor who actually fought Gavin Newsom. He's working with Gavin Newsom. I trust the pharmacy CEO who licks Trump's butthole. That's who I like. The pharma shill who's pretending to say everything I say. MAGA. Oh, that's so fun, guys. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Have a good weekend. God bless you guys. I'll be back with more fun live streams soon, more good guests, more better topics. That's why I don't even like to talk about this stuff that much because it's just a dead end. It's like going to like San Francisco and telling them that crime is too high. They're like, I don't see it. I mean, I did get my watch robbed yesterday, but I don't even deserve that watch. I'm glad they took it. That's what they say. It's like there was a UFC fighter. His name is Song Yadong from China. And he was posting all these things in like San Francisco. And then he posted a video and said he got robbed. He got robbed in San Francisco. Everyone gets robbed in San Francisco. It's just part and parcel of living in a Democrat city, but it's okay. God bless you guys. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go have fun and get off here.